terrific. Your hair looks beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
How long does it take for hair? See, before I was married, before I ask you about hair, I just thought women's hair looked like that.
They just woke up in the...
Yeah, I
woke up this morning and it did look like this. So, I mean, in fairness. But it's because I paid someone last night to shampoo my hair and make it look like this. Which is why you woke up looking like this. Yes, exactly.
How long does it take to...
Well, I went to a salon because of all my stuff.
I don't mean how long did it take to do. I mean, how long does hair, once you've done it like that, last? I've never done it to myself, so I'm curious.
I think most people would say a couple of days, but if you have health stuff, you make it last a week. I try to make it last a week. It looks good for like 3 or 4 days.
It looks great. You look beautiful.
Thank you.
Washing hair, is that what gets rid of it?
Yeah,
primarily?
Washing it, and then like you've got to blow dry it. So the hairdresser, like blow dried my hair.
This is the kind
and
of
then
content my
it.
Pints with Aquinas listeners have come to expect.
Yeah, well, and I am like the least like hair. I don't know how to do my hair. Like I've talked about this before, and I'm like, I just don't. Like I went to Kristalina Everett's to like do a video recording thing, and like Sarah Cotter like had this bag of stuff, and she's like, I'm gonna go do my hair and makeup, and she had this plan, and Kristalina told me to wear like high definition makeup, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. And she's like, oh, Cameron. I was like, yeah. And she's like, and are you gonna do your hair like that? I'm like, honestly, you could do my hair. I don't know how to do my hair. And she's like, oh yeah, no, you look great, but do you want me to? I was like, sure. She took like a minute and like pulled up, teased, hair-sprayed, and was like, ta-da. And I was like, wow, that looks good. I just never really learned how to do hair. I didn't really care.
Honest question. Like, do you feel insecure about that? Or was there a time where you did, like in a way that a man might not know how to do what's a stereotypical man thing?
No, like I know well enough. Like I can blow dry my hair with a round brush. That's fine. But it's like curling or straightening. Honestly, I couldn't be bothered. Like, I'm like, okay, I know that it's the same with makeup. Like I was just a tomboy, right?
Yeah.
And so Meredith, my sister, would spend like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half before school in high school getting ready. That's why she got voted best looking and was prom queen, homecoming queen, all the things. And so she mastered that, and I couldn't do it as good as her. And I'm like, I really don't even care. So I'd get out of bed, throw clothes on. Sometimes I'd even be getting dressed as we're driving to school.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of my enemies online who call me a misogynist for saying there are no funny stand-up comics. As soon as he has a woman on the show, he just talks to her about hair and makeup because that's all they've got to offer.
Yeah, and I'm not even good at that, and you know that about me.
No, I should have asked another woman.
I know. Sarah Swafford, she does great for hair and makeup. You should have asked her.
She's so cool.
Yeah.
Listen, we want to talk about chronic pain, and the reason we wanted to do this episode is, one, you're going through this, but two, I think we've been surprised how many people have responded saying, I'm suffering the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I've been surprised by that. Do you
want to turn that off?
Yeah, it's the kids.
Yeah.
That didn't take long.
I know.
A minute in and they're already calling.
But I think you should turn it off or else you'll be distracted.
Okay, how about I just flip it over?
It'll still buzz, won't it?
Could I give it to someone out there in case they call 5 times? Would someone take my phone? It's my children. You don't have to answer it, but if they keep calling, feel free to answer.
It's her children.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Our children. Sorry, our children. Yeah, I've been surprised by... So my whole thing is like being real and talking to women. I love...
Laura Horn has ruined that for you, though, we should say.
She has.
She
oh
really
my goodness. No, I love Laura. She's amazing and awesome. So I am not a girly girl, and it's not that I don't like girly girls, but I'm not your typical girl, but I love the heart of women. But I come at it from a very different point of view, I think, because I was a tomboy and because I'm not extremely, I don't know, emotional feelings type. Like I don't have as many... How would you even say that? You know what I'm saying?
We had a funny conversation the other day. You have these great one-liners sometimes. I'm just thinking, my gosh, like you're so funny, especially when you don't try to be. You say the most hilarious things. So here's what happened. We were having a discussion and I said, you do a better job at not allowing my emotional chaos to suck you into it.
Yes.
And I said, when you get emotional, I don't do so well. And you said, well, in fairness to you, I've had way more practice. That was a great line.
It's so true. Yeah.
But
I tend to, try to be more, I don't know.
I mean, are you afraid to say things like that? Because, I mean, you are a beautiful woman with beautiful emotions and a beautiful, sensitive heart. And maybe maybe you kind of grew up as a tomboy, and so the temptation was to press into that and to take a pride in not having emotions, etc. Not that you're saying you don't have emotions.
Yeah, no, because I do have emotions and I do have feelings. No, but I think there's something about, because when I started talking to women, it's like, oh gosh, I used to hate women's session, right? And and even on net was so great when we'd have to get together and share our hearts. I would always be like, I loved hearing their hearts, and I'm like, we're running out of time. I don't need to go. It's okay. I'll talk next time. And I didn't want to go there. And that's a weakness of mine. It's not a strength, but I was so blessed to have amazing, beautiful sisters who loved me in it. I'm like, all right, Cameron, let's go there.
So I'm trying to understand then what you mean, because you do have a beautiful heart and a sensitive heart, and you're attuned to what women are going through. So you do have that beautiful, you know what I mean? So when you say you're not a girl, I'm just trying to figure out what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I know, but I know that.
I think you do a really good job. I think everyone is saying, hey, I just want to be real. Everybody says that.
I know, and I hate that that's what I say.
No, but listen, not everybody's like that. In the same way that comedians probably want to present themselves as, I'm really real, but Norm Macdonald actually friggin' was. And that's why people respected him.
Yeah.
And I think you're like that. You are very sincere, and it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So maybe that's the difference. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. But I've been very surprised sharing my health journey and sharing like all along. I feel like in the beginning when I talked about endometriosis, I had so many girls and PCOS and all these female health issues that a lot of doctors don't take seriously, especially when I was a teenager in the 90s, late 90s, it was, oh yeah, bad periods, here, get on the birth control pill. I'm like, nah, I'm pretty sure there's something going on, something more than this. Well, no, you also have acne. It'll help with that. It's like, I don't want a Band-Aid. Figure out what's wrong with me. So I remember when I finally got diagnosed and they went in and did a laparoscopy and they're like, you have stage 4 endometriosis. Everything is a mess. And I'm like, okay, I felt validation. I'm like, I have a high pain tolerance. And the fact that I'm curled up in a ball and exploding both ends. I mean, you remember seeing me. Sorry, this is going to be vulgar and gross. I apologize. Okay. But I had validation and it was like, okay, no, you really are sick. And then it got so much better. And I was like, this is what people feel like when they're on their period. This is fine. This isn't a big deal. I'm not dying. And I think the chronic pain thing is the same. The chronic illness, I've been through a lot of different things with different stages of sickness and illnesses. And I feel like when I had a diagnosis or when it got more in the chronic illness realm, it was like, okay, all these things are connected. The fact that my blood pressure is really low, that I feel like I'm fainting, that my heart does weird things in races. I feel like I've run a marathon and all I did was stand at mass and I'm about to pass out, or all my joints are popping. I feel like there was a validation in it. And it's like, okay, there is something wrong. And I think that a lot of times when people suffer from chronic illness and sickness, whether it's EDS, fibromyalgia, any of those things that you can't, it's not when you have a broken bone and you have an x-ray, it's very clear.
Yeah. These things sometimes feel like umbrella terms for things we don't quite understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so good to have validation. And I know I'm secure enough in myself knowing I'm not making this stuff up. I remember when I was having horrible GI stuff when I was in Canada. I was 19 and I just started losing weight. I started vomiting all the time and I couldn't. I remember Des Sanish, a friend of ours, put his hands around my waist and it's like, Cameron, I'm really concerned for you, because he could legit put his hands around my waist. I'm 5'8". I normally weigh 120, 130 pounds. I got down to 100 pounds and I was just so sick. Every night I was just crazy sick and I kept going to the doctors and they give me stuff, but it didn't make me better. And so I go back and I remember talking to this doctor. I'm like, I need you to figure out. And I was on a waiting list to have a test. Socialized medicine, right? I would have died if I wasn't American and couldn't have come home. But I was on a waiting list and he said in a month I would get this upper GI x-ray and then they'd figure it out. I'm like, look at me. I won't be here in a month. I've lost 20 pounds in the last 3 weeks. I won't be here. And then he thought it was ulcers, put me on medicine. And I remember going in and he's like, I think I figured out what it is. I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm so glad. What is it? He's like, I think you're bulimic. I'm like, and I think you're a moron. I'm in your office begging you to figure out what's wrong with me. Yeah. And your answer is I'm making myself vomit. No. Or I think a lot of people, I'm very hard-headed and strong-willed, and I think it's like the cholericness in me, and I'm not okay with that answer. I'm like, this is not in my head. Like, something is seriously wrong with me. It hurts to move. My insides feel like they're trying to come out of me, and I can't keep any food down. I'm trying all these crazy diets, and it just, like, I was just so angry. And I think a lot of people are like, well, if the doctor says I'm bulimic, maybe I am. Like, maybe it's all in my head. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, it's not in your head. Like, you do have pain. And then flying home and getting tests done, within a week, they figured out, okay, you have GERD, you have IBS, you have Barrett's esophagus, you have esophagitis. Like, there was diagnosis, but then my body was used to just evacuating food. So I had to, like, literally wait for the meds to kick in and hold myself down as my body, like, was trying to just get rid of all the food. And it was, only God's grace that got me through it. So I don't know how people that suffer from chronic illness, I don't know how they function without God's grace. Like, you need to rely on him. Like, he is my strength, right?
So how old were you? 23? Is this kind of around there?
No, this was when I was like 19, 20. This is before we met. Yeah, my second year on net.
Because, I mean, you've had health issues ever since we met, and they've sort of revealed themselves differently. So I think one of the frustrations is this the same thing? Is it a multitude of things? Because when we met, what was the primary thing? Endometriosis is what we said, I guess. And GERD, we'd probably say that.
Yeah, I think we would say both. And we knew I had horrible GI stuff.
No, but that's really important too. I love what you said there, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are dealing with chronic pain and they get given a pat answer just to kind of shut you up maybe, or just to... We all like simple narratives that make complex things easy to grasp. But I love that you trusted your body, and you're like, no, that's not it. I'm not going to go on the pill. That's a Band-Aid. I'm not bulimic. You're an idiot.
Yeah, I did unfortunately go on the pill for many years. But eventually, once I did my own research, I'm like, I'm right that this is a Band-Aid.
And just pause there too, because it's not like we were intimate at this time.
No, I wasn't sexually active at all. No, this is pre-marriage, sex.
So just for those at home who are wondering, can you be on the pill for medical reasons?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. It's not immoral to be on the pill for medical reasons, and yet there's no really good reason to be on the pill, and there's a lot of reasons to not be on it.
Yeah, no, there are so many other things that you can do. So low dose naltrexone is huge. I love that drug. It's when we were in Ireland, I don't know if you remember, when I was actually I had already had Liam. And it was in between my pregnancy, I met Dr. Phil Boyle at a conference in Dublin. And he's the one that told me about low-dose naltrexone.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
And it helps with pain. It helps with... So basically, when you're pregnant with endometriosis or a lot of these female health issues, it lays dormant when you're pregnant. And normally, people feel great when they're pregnant. I was still really sick. So hindsight, I've had doctors that are like, you also have this, like all these other health issues, female-related. The low-dose naltrexone makes your body think that you're pregnant, but it's safe to be on even when you're breastfeeding. So it makes the tissue, it makes your body think that you're not pregnant, but kind of the hormones. And so everything lays dormant. So it buys you time. Because with endometriosis, the joke is get pregnant, stay pregnant, have a hysterectomy. Like, it's not fun. It's not what you want. But I think the best thing is doing like a NAPRO protocol and having laparoscopies. Like, there's surgeries now that can help. So that was the main stuff in the beginning.
So that was what it was like in the beginning. What's it like now for those who are watching and they haven't heard your story? Like, what do you deal with right now?
Okay, so right now I feel like maybe I should go over the ICU before we get here. Yeah,
sure.
Because I think that's the biggest turning point. I feel like that's kind of where I really went down.
Everything? Yeah. Okay, sure, go for it.
So we had a miscarriage, and I think I was 12 weeks pregnant, and lost the baby. Ended up just being so sick after like 10 days of trying to pass the baby. Went and had a DNC at the hospital in the emergency room, and then after that, I just kept getting sicker. And I remember it was Kiara's birthday party. Do you remember this? We had other friends that came over, and some of them had miscarriages. One of them even had a DNC, and I don't like to admit when I'm not okay, especially if it's like a holiday or a kid's birthday. I'm like, I'm going to put on a strong face and smile and get through it. And one of my friends was like, Cameron, you're really sick. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I just haven't recovered. And they're like, look over there. And I was like, over there? I'm like, can you move your neck? And I was like,
shut up.
Yeah, I can move my neck. Look at this. See? And they're like, no. Like, and they're like, we'll watch the kids. We'll finish the party. Matt, take her to the ER. And I was really sick, and I was vomiting, and I didn't have a fever. So no one thought that I had an infection, or no one thought that I was sick, but you had to pretty much carry me out of the parking lot, right? I was just so sick, and I had a horrible migraine, and things just got so much worse. And we had a doctor friend who was good enough to be like, get her to the doctor. Like, this isn't okay. Like, something's really wrong. And we didn't know what it was, but I was in excruciating pain, and just, I looked horrible, felt horrible. And that doctor took one look at me and was like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm going to put you in the hospital. Like, you look worse now than when I met you. And then that night, my blood pressure tanked, and my white blood cells started dying off, and I ended up in the ICU. And they thought I was bleeding internally. I think they kind of prepared you to say bye to me. Yeah.
I don't know if that was ever said explicitly, but that was certainly how I felt.
Yeah. So I think I was in the ICU for a week, 10 days.
You were in the ICU for almost 2 weeks, and you were in the hospital for a month.
Yeah. Okay. So it's blurry for me back then. Like, I remember even there was a priest giving me last rites and trying to go to confession. Like, I couldn't, like, my brain wasn't there. And I remember nurses being like, you shouldn't be conscious. And I'm like, whose blood is it? Like, is it a Jewish guy's blood? Like, I was getting a blood transfusion. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I know he's not Jehovah's Witness, but is he a Jewish guy? And they're like, we don't know. It's B positive. It's your blood type. But I was trying to, like, I don't know, stay in control. So I have weird kind of memories trying to go to confession. But I was like, I don't even think it was making sense, you know? And I remember Father Kevin like holding my hand, and I didn't have the strength to like hold his hand. But I wanted to hold his hand, and I felt such comfort with him holding my hand. And I remember, like, I think it was like at the worst point of it. You weren't there yet, but there was 2 priests, and I didn't know this at the time. But I felt like I was kind of slipping away, or I didn't think I was going to make it. I was aware a lot of craziness was going on around me, and I heard singing and chanting in Latin, and I thought, this is it. I'm going to heaven. And I thought,
they do sing Latin in heaven.
Why are there only guys' voices? I feel like there should be female voices as well. And then I realized it was the priest, and I wasn't actually dying, which was lovely news. But when I came out of the ICU, I feel like I just was so sick. Like, I think it was the perfect breeding ground, hindsight. I have like mold toxins and Lyme disease and a bunch of other stuff, but they just pump my body full of antibiotics and steroids and whatever to like save my life, which was huge. But then I came out and I couldn't walk.
That's right.
I had neurological things. I was like shaking and all sorts of stuff. And my blood pressure, they just couldn't keep up. Like, it just was crazy low. And they're like, you shouldn't be talking now. And I'm like, well, I am. So, and I remember there was a neurologist that would sit in my room, and it was very, like, I could remember, and I had some bad doctors, or some not bad doctors, but doctors that were kind of clueless. They were like, could you walk before you came into the hospital? Are you serious? Look at me. Do I look like someone that doesn't walk? Like, yes, I could walk and run and exercise and work out and do lots of things prior. But I remember the neurologist would sit in the room with me and eat his lunch, like on his lunch break, and just chat. And I'm like, do you think I'm crazy? Like, at one point I was like, this is weird. Like, I could tell what was going to happen. Like,
no one had any idea. And we were in one of the top hospitals in Atlanta, ICU, and people had no idea.
Yeah. And I was seeing every specialist for so many different things. And it was all weird stuff. It was like, okay, here's your female stuff. Here's your GI stuff. Here's your blood pressure. Here's your neurology. Like, it was all different things. And they couldn't put the pieces together. Hindsight, it's EDS. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So my joints pop out. So I always joked I couldn't be a cheerleader, because my arms do that, and my shoulders pop out, everything pops out. I'm just really double jointed.
And when you say pop out, like, you mean it. I just want people to know at home. Like, I mean, you went and knelt for Eucharist and you dislocated your knee the other day.
Yeah. I picked up that the coffee, what do you call that? French press. I picked it up at the store, and as I picked it up, my thumb dislocated, and it was like, and like it wasn't that heavy, but
This makes me feel so much better for the time we were play wrestling and I dislocated your shoulder, because I felt like the worst human being alive, and I knew if the police came, I wouldn't be able to be like, we were just wrestling, and I was.
It just pops out.
Oh my
and
gosh!
that shoulder
what is that
in particular,
like to have bones pop out?
it just pops in and out.
But what does that mean? Like when sometimes you and I will go on a walk and you'll say my hip is popping out. Do you mean, is that the same as dislocating?
Yes, it dislocates. But like right now, my shoulder like will go in and out quite easily. So it's actually less painful. Like it's painful. It hurts. But that's less painful than when it's somewhat stable and then pops out, because it won't go back in. So putting it back in, like I learned at a very young age to put joints back in.
And this is because of the EDS as a kid? Is that what that?
Yeah, I was never diagnosed with EDS. But as soon as I saw a doctor, and she just listened to all my stuff, and she's like, "Are you hypermobile?" And I was like, "I don't know what that means. I'm double jointed." And she's like, "Okay." She's like, "Put your arm like this." And then she like pulled, I guess we have extra skin. Like we have more
EDS
skin,
people?
EDS people, yeah.
It's a nice feature. I don't know what that's for, but
I don't know. Maybe so the joints could go in and out more easily. And then on bad days, like today's a bad day, and so I have like special compression pants, and they like kind of hold and snug at my hips and my knees to keep them in place. And then compression socks help with POTS. So I have
what is that?
So it's basically my blood. Some people, it's their blood pressure goes really high, and mine goes really low. And so sometimes my heart goes too fast. So it's like I've ran a marathon, but my blood pressure goes too low, and you get dizzy and lightheaded. And so compression socks really help, because it makes your blood stay up here and helps your heart pump it more easily. I don't know all the medical stuff. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
These are all new diagnoses within the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And so realizing that, but hindsight, I can look back and be like, oh my goodness. Like I remember playing soccer and dislocating my knee like all the time in the middle of a soccer game.
What did your parents say?
My dad helped me put it back in the first time.
Dear Lord.
And my dad was like, all right, it's going to hurt. And so it hurts really, really bad when it goes out. And you're like, our kids have done it before too.
Have they?
Yeah. Liam did it when he was playing soccer. Kiara's done it before.
So this all comes from you?
And I'll put it back in.
This is what you've given
I
our
know,
kids?
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
I'm sorry. So I know how to put it back in. So I remember the first time my knee
I
dislocated.
don't know how it is. I'm 39, 16 years into marriage, have 4 children, and didn't know. I had no idea that our kids have dislocated anything.
Yeah.
How many times has this happened? Am I a bad father?
No. You're just not around as much as me. I'm always there.
Yeah.
You're doing stuff like this, talking to YouTube.
Yeah, going to Rome, going to Vegas for work. Yeah, not really.
You can make that a clip. Am I a bad father?
And I'm cleaning up the pieces at home. Yeah, but I also know what to do. So like I remember the first time Liam did it, he was in excruciating pain. He's like, my knee. I'm like, listen, look at me. I love you. I know it hurts really, really bad. It's going to keep hurting. I can take you to the hospital. It's going to hurt the entire time, and then they're going to put it back in. I know how to put it back in. If I do it now, I can stop it from hurting.
You are such a boss.
Do you trust me?
You're awesome.
Yes. And I'm like, okay, look at me. 1, 2, and I pull the leg up and push the kneecap back in.
You are amazing.
And it's like, and it still hurts, but it hurts less when it's back in its place.
All right, hang on. Liam, Kiara, who else is dislocated there?
I think Avila has.
Dear
I think Peter's the
Lord.
only one that I don't think he's ever dislocated anything.
Wow. Anyone in here ever dislocate anything? No. One.
Maybe my shoulder.
Yeah.
I just think of Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon when he's in the water in that, what is it called? Straitjacket and he dislocates his shoulder to get out. You could do that. If someone ever chained you up and threw you in the ocean.
I could totally get out of it.
I'd be screwed.
And
Who's
then
laughing now? You know?
I've also had, so when I wrestled in high school, the girl, like the best, so she ended up winning state, but I had beaten her multiple times.
Yeah. For those at home, my wife was captain of the wrestling team in high school.
Yes, I was. I know it's hard to believe now because I don't have my nice big neck that was so muscular.
You didn't have
back
a
then.
neck. There were photos I looked at, and you literally had no neck.
I hadn't built up the
cheek,
muscles.
chins, shoulder. Not chins. Sorry, cheek, chin, shoulders.
I may have had multiple chins. I don't know. I worked out a lot.
Yeah.
I worked out a lot. But this girl that I went against often, she knew my right shoulder was my weak point. I dislocated at slide tackling. When you're wrestling, you're using every muscle in your body, and you're figuring out the other person as you're wrestling them. So you, especially with girls wrestling this is early 2000s, so it was new. I lived in Texas. It was like Texas, Oklahoma. I think we were the only states doing girl wrestling. But you learn your opponent really well, and you learn their weak points. So I knew this girl's left knee was weak, so I always went for it. She would protect it the way you move. I know she went for my shoulder, but this one time, so it would get dislocated. My coach knew how to help me put it back in. So I'd have him hold it, and I'd pull down and get it back in place.
That's why when we wrestled and I dislocated your shoulder, you had me do that.
Yeah, I know what to do. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, this is what I need you to do. Hold my hand.
Only people who know us know this about us. Like we wrestle a lot, like for fun.
Not anymore. We used to.
The last time we wrestled was at Bennigan's pub here in Steubenville, where you and I started like pushing each other, and then we like kicked the table away, and we were on the floor wrestling.
True story.
And the thing that sucks about wrestling your wife is if you win, you suck. And if you lose, you suck. There's really no way to win that. But I enjoy it. It's
I'm
fun.
the winner either way.
Yeah, we're very physical. But
remember, was it Joe Vogel?
I don't know any other married couple that do this.
Yeah, we have a friend who's like really big into the love languages, and he's like, I don't know, like physical aggression was a love language, but it is with you two.
It's great. I love it. But when you get better, I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah, well, wait till I get better, and then I will. I'm sorry, I picked this up, and I'm like, everything hurts. I love you. It's a playful kicking of asses. It's not a mean.
No.
And as soon as I say stop, you always stop.
Yeah.
So
we have an aggressive relationship.
Yeah.
We did a live stream about a year ago, and like you and I were like talking in a heated way, and we saw people in the live chat, and they were like I'm being triggered, but this reminds me of my parents when they fought. And I was like, genuinely shocked. Are you kidding? You think this is fighting?
This is nothing.
Do not come to our house when we're fighting. And then someone even did a video, like it was a response video to us. They had an argument. But in that video, they were like, notice how, it was some Indian fella, notice how Matt, I'm not going to try to do his accent, is very logical and his wife is very emotional. And this is like really the opposite of our relationship.
It is really, anyone that knows us knows that is not the case. But he took all female stereotypes and put it on me.
Yeah, he's the bastard,
and
people.
all masculine stereotypes.
I wonder what
and put
he
it on
thinks
you.
of female stand-up comics.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't find them funny. But you find me funny and Laura Horn. So, I mean, there is that.
That's true.
I couldn't make it as a stand-up comedian, but mainly because I just couldn't stand the whole time.
Well, let's not get into that again. All right, new topic.
Okay, so
golly, I'm just like overwhelmed by how much you've been through.
Yeah,
it's like on a day-to-day, I know you're sick and I know you're dealing with stuff, but it's like to hear it all at once is really almost overwhelming. Like you've dealt with a lot.
Yeah, and what's hard is a lot of people with chronic illness. And I feel like chronic pain's part of it, like undiagnosed stuff. Like we always knew there was something wrong, right? And I did have some diagnosis, but it was like, it's more than that.
Yeah.
It's more than what you're telling me it is. And it's always hard when you get hospitalized. Like I think, so for me, so that ICU, so I came out of the ICU not being able to walk, using a walker. I was 35 at the time. I lost half the hair on my head. It all came back white. So I have fun, like white wispies. I can do like white wispy bangs. So I was 35. I got white eyebrows, using a walker.
We went to Rome, remember? We had a vacation in Rome.
Yeah.
And I had to go earlier for school.
And I showed up with a cane.
No, it wasn't a cane. It was literally, I think, a walker, wasn't it? Like 4 wheels and tennis balls on the...
Oh, it may have been. So I did have a walker
really difficult
with the tennis
on cobblestone.
Yeah, it was hard. No, I think I brought just a single cane.
Yeah.
I think at that point I had graduated. Okay. But I remember when I was using the walker with the tennis balls on it, I would get dizzy too. So I needed it for stability purposes as well. So I felt like I was drunk on a ship and everything around me was moving. Hindsight, it's POTS. I just don't know that they had that diagnosis back then.
Really?
So I would find a focal point. I'm like, don't fall over, don't fall over. And like, if people didn't know me, I think they would have thought that I was drunk, but I wasn't drinking any alcohol.
Yeah.
But I remember going to vestibular therapy at the hospital and physical therapy to like relearn how to walk. And this old guy, golly, he must have been like 80 or 90, and he passed me by. I'm like trying to walk and I'm going slow, and he's like, "You'll get the hang of it, sweetie," as he passes me by. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like humility. Thank you, Jesus. I love you. Thank you for this cross of humility. Like you can't pretend that you have it together when an old dude's passing you by in the walker. I'm like, you'll get the hang of it eventually. And I think the thing with chronic sicknesses is you can have a good day and you look like a normal person. You look great. I've gotten comments before from people, and I don't think they mean anything by it. I think they mean it as a compliment, but it's like, they'll ask how I'm doing, and I'm like, you know what? It's been rough. Like I've just been having some rough days, and you know what it's like. There's days that like I am so aware of every step I take, and especially going up and down stairs. So like I get out of bed in the morning, I go and do my light therapy. I do an ultraviolet light and red light therapy, and I get my compression socks on. That's like, and I take my prayer time. Well, Jonathan Rumi is normally there leading me in the daily meditation, which I appreciate. Thank you, Hallow. Look, I'm helping you.
Hallow.com/Matt Fradd.
And so I do that, but then once I don't want to come back upstairs. Once I go down the stairs, I'm like, okay, that's it. Because if I go back upstairs, it wastes my energy. Like I only have so much, and it's just exhausting. So well-meaning people will be like, well, you look great, I'd take it. And it's like,
yeah, I wish I looked as good as you when I'm sick. Something like that.
Yeah. I wish I looked as good as you when I was sick.
Yeah,
Like,
and they're trying to compliment you, but it feels like what? They're kind of belittling you or downplaying how bad you're really doing.
yeah. And in fairness, I downplay how bad I'm doing to people that don't know me, because when someone says, "How you doing?" they don't want to hear, "I'm in so much pain. It feels like I've been hit by a truck. My entire body is bruised and I have stabbing pains in certain areas. And if I move my arm the wrong way, or I didn't bring my water bottle today because it was too heavy and it hurt. And I felt like my wrist, elbow, and shoulder were dislocating by me holding a water bottle." Like nobody wants to hear that. You know, I'm exhausted. I may have gotten 2 hours of sleep last night. I went downstairs in my reclining chair to put my legs up and my head up.
I texted you right before this to see if this interview was going to happen because you didn't sleep. You look great for someone who hasn't slept.
Thanks.
I don't mean that to be belittling. But
No, I think it's like I prayed a lot through the night and prayed for this chat and for all the people out there that suffer from chronic pain or undiagnosed stuff.
I think another thing that's going to be difficult for those struggling with things you're struggling with is it feels like there's a lot of skepticism regarding new diagnoses these days.
Yeah.
Not just physical illness, but mental illness. So it feels like there's this whole cottage industry, maybe that's the wrong term, but kind of discrediting things like ADHD and the need for medication. There's this whole thing. And I'm not kind of making a claim one way or the other. Certainly there are no doubt to be abuses when it comes to medicating children, and maybe that's bad. I don't know. But the point is, like, it's like, oh, it's this new thing. Like, what is it, POTS? Is it really a thing? Is it just in your head? So that's got to be brutal.
Yeah. And then I was diagnosed with ADD before it was cool.
Yeah.
I was the only girl in my school with ADD.
Does anyone have ADD anymore, or does everybody have ADHD?
No, I think they got away with ADD. I think
Do you have high definition?
Is it all ADHD now? Okay.
Is it?
So there you go. I'm ADHD. I think we all knew that. I mean, just look at me for 2 seconds. But I think that there's freedom. So when you get a diagnosis, there's freedom in it, but that needs to not be your identity. My identity is not, I am not a girl who suffers from EDS, endometriosis, POTS, GERD, IBS, you name it, all these things. I am God's precious, sweet little girl. That is my identity. And yes, I may be doing a task and get distracted and move on to something else. And it's like, oh, that's my ADD playing up. But that's not who I am. And I think when you dive into a diagnosis and you're like, I am EDS, I am hypermobility, this is who I am. That's not who I am. Yes, I have this.
Why do people do that?
I think because for so long they didn't have validation. So like fibromyalgia, I passed the test for that. I could probably get a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. But I don't need it. So certain things, so it's like good to know that I have POTS, and it's like, okay, I can take supplements, salt and electrolytes, and I think part of so my doctor, when I got out of the hospital and started walking again back to the ICU, I lived on these Meyer cocktails. I don't know why. It was these IV fluids, and it's vitamins, minerals, but also like saline, like also salt, which really helps. Really helps people with POTS, but it helped me. So I would go get these. Do you remember when I was all bruised and I had all these, like I kind of looked like a druggie. I wasn't, but I kind of looked like one. But I think that it's like, okay, you finally have validation, but then you can't let your disease pigeonhole you. Yeah. So I think people are like, oh, chronic pain people, they're over there. Like they're kind of crazy. Yeah. I think one of the graces that I have is that I don't struggle with depression and anxiety, which I've had a lot of doctors be like,
I thought everyone was supposed to struggle with those things today. I don't think you're allowed to be living without. No, you're right. It's so good. You don't at all.
I don't. I have in my past. I've struggled with it in the past, but like. I'm very much the glass is half full. And let's look at
infuriating.
Let's look at the good things and let's focus on that. And I think that with the fact that I am Catholic, like, is such a gift. Like knowing like Christ suffered and died for love of me. Like this is my body broken and given for love of you. Like I get to partake in that with him all the time. You know, like that last night, like I was doing my breathing and doing my Jesus. Like that's what I do when I can't sleep or when I have pain or when I get so dizzy. It's deep breaths in, Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, and the same out. And Jesus, I love you. Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, I give you this pain. Unite it to you. So I love offer it up. Like I've taught that to our kids. I love that saying. And when I say offer it up, I don't mean suck it up, princess. Suck it up, princess is very different to offering it up. Like sucking it up is, I will do this by my own strength. And I have been very guilty of this in the past, which has gotten me sicker. So with some of these diseases I have, like I remember when they explained to me, they're like, okay, a normal person mows the backyard, but you with your diseases and sicknesses, you need to mow 1/4 of the backyard and then sit and rest and think, how's my blood pressure doing? Take your blood pressure. How's my heart rate? And then you can go mow another 1/4. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like that's ridiculous. But that's my reality right now, which is a cross in and of itself, right? But offering it up is saying, okay, Lord, just like a priest at Mass takes what looks like bread, you know, and just takes these mere little tiny gifts and offers it up to the Lord, and like it becomes Jesus's body and blood. I get to take my pain and my suffering and offer it up, and the Lord uses it for beautiful things. Like for every way that I fail, I feel like I'm failing as a mom, because my 8-year-old will say, Mom, do you remember when we used to go for walks and hikes and you could do that? Yeah, like that's hard. Or like, remember, Mom, do you think you feel good enough to go to the store today? It's like, no, honey, I'm sorry, I can't. But let's sit and read a book and snuggle. And it's like offering that up and saying like, okay, like Jesus, I give you this. I give you the pain of this. And pregnancy, like you don't have to have chronic pain to do this. People that have been pregnant, like, you know, I was the worst pregnant person. I suffered a lot through pregnancy, but it was beautiful to say, this is my body given up for you, Lord. Like Jesus, I give you this. I give you this pain. I give you this suffering. And I pray that you use it to unite me to your Sacred Heart. Like, I don't know how to explain to someone what the Sacred Heart is, but I feel it. My heart is right there with him, right? And I think it's a gift in some ways. And when my head's in a good place, it's great. And I am helping make saints, and I am offering it up and saving souls. When I was in the hospital with COVID and I started praying I was so isolated, right? And I could barely breathe and everything hurt. And I know that the Lord was using my suffering to save souls in that very hospital and to help priests go and minister. And there's moments, I'm not good with my prayer life. You're much better with like doing your morning prayer, your evening prayer, getting to adoration, confession. Like you're so much more ordered, but mine's when I'm so sick and I can't do anything. And
I'll be serving you drinks in heaven though, because your prayer life is far more superior to mine. And it took me a while to figure that out, because as a melancholic, I like things ordered. I like things structured. I was the guy that when we got married, I got a kneeler. I set up a little chapel. I was super like anal about everything. Meanwhile, you're suffering and offering it up, like that's where the prayer is. But yeah. Sorry, keep going.
I think we pray differently, right?
Yeah.
For me, I learned how to pray on a bathroom floor. Like that is, it's humbling. It's rock bottom. When I was 19, someone gave me, I think one of the friars of the renewal made it. It was this little square. It was a little piece of wood, and it was the face of Jesus, like from the shroud. It was black and white. And I used to hold it in my hand when I was and I was often in the bathroom all night. I was just very sick and my GI tract was exploding every which way. And it was a lot of pain, just curled up in a ball, right? Like you see me like that. It's gotten better. My GI stuff's gotten better, but then the rest of my body's kind of falling apart. But in that immense pain, curling up in a ball and just looking at that, like that was my prayer. Like I wasn't able to go to mass so many times. Our team all went to daily mass. Often the priest would bring me communion. And I'd always pray and I have to think, could I keep down the Eucharist? Should I receive or not? Because there was times where I was so sick, I couldn't keep anything down. And it's like, I don't want to be throwing up Jesus, so I'm not going to receive today, but spiritual communion, But yeah, I fail at it. Like I definitely get discouraged and I want to quit. And I think when you have so many doctors and you feel like, okay, I'm going to be better any day. And it's like, I've been saying that for years. Like since we moved here, how many days do you think I felt well in the last 2 years?
No more than a week of days, right? Maybe.
Yeah. I think I would say probably the same, maybe a week. A good day here, a good day there. And taking them.
I know one thing you've said, which I'm sure will be a blessing to other people because they'll resonate with it, is it's been difficult for you to grow in community here in Steubenville because you can't tell people I'll see you next Tuesday at 7 because you don't know how you'll be, right?
Yeah.
What's that been like?
It's hard. So either you come off as flaky because you'll make plans and then cancel last minute. Or I have a couple friends that are one who's really struggling with a lot of the exact same things as me, which is very comforting. It's like, I get it. And another who's gone through health issues. And so I feel like they get it more, people that have, and then just telling people like, hey, listen, like I would love to go to this thing with you on Friday. I may cancel last minute. Or if you want to come to my house.
But what's been cool too is like, as you've grown in friendship with these people and they understand, and those are the friends really that you want to develop anyway. Like, we have so many beautiful people. We got to do a shout out to Star Plato.
Yeah.
We have had Plato on the show before, the fella.
I'm going to have his wife Plato on my show.
She's beautiful. Amazing. But what did she say? She said, can I come over and wash your hair for you?
Yeah. There's something about having my hands above my head. I don't know what it is. I wash my hair and it's like I ran a 5K. Like back when I was in shape, that's how exhausted I am. And then to try to blow dry it, like I've had multiple times where I just collapse on the bed and I need to sleep for a few hours and then maybe I can get up, but it's like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. Hence going and paying someone to wash my hair. But yeah, she was so beautiful. And like, she wasn't like, that's what she offered to do. Can I come wash your hair and blow dry it for you? And I felt so loved and so appreciated. And I was like, thank you. Yes, I would love that. Or neighbors where I've just been so sick. Like we have beautiful neighbors who have helped me. Like I'm on the ground and I can't move. And I'm like, I need someone to help get me up the stairs, or I need someone to drive me to the hospital. But what stinks is you can't take me to the hospital in town because they'll just keep me in and I'll get so much sicker. I need you to drive me 2 hours to Cleveland.
Yeah.
We have two different neighbors that have done that.
Where was I? I think I was in Poland.
Maybe, yeah.
And you had
Cindy Welker took me, and then Newton, yeah. Yeah, William Newton took me. Yeah. And I mean, that's a friend, right? And I don't want to ask that. Like, I remember just being like I remember walking into the Newton's house and they were like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm really sick. And it's like, oh my goodness, sit down. What's wrong? And then just explaining what was going on. And it's like, what do you need? Like, let us help. And we were still new in our friendship. And I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to be like, hey, could you just pick me up off the floor because I'm so sick? But that's what community is, right? Helping each other on good days and loving each other on the bad days. And
so what's the most difficult thing about it, other than the excruciating physical agony? Like, is it that you mentioned earlier about wishing you could do things with the kids that you were once able to do?
Yeah,
Is it
not knowing if it's going to go away? So I hope that it will. I think from what I've read and studied, the fact that I'm dealing with mold toxins and Lyme disease, I think when we get rid of that and the POTS and some other stuff, then I'll always have like EDS and GERD and IBS. But and I'm very strict with my diet. You know this. So people are like, "Have you tried cutting out sugar?" It's like, please, I haven't had sugar.
Please.
Yeah, please.
Oh my
Dairy,
gosh.
cut it out. You know,
Yeah, are you
gluten. Like
kidding?
I eat so clean. Like I've even had doctors be like, you know what, you should probably add back in more things. But with mast cell activation syndrome,
Talk about that.
yeah, so there's this thing, mast cell activations. We all have mast cells. And basically it's if there's a virus or something, your body fights it off. So it's basically like, I don't know. I talk to the kids about good bugs and bad bugs in your body.
Yeah.
This is not medical. Look it up online for the real thing. But this will prove my point at least. But basically your body goes into overdrive and it's fighting. And it's like, okay, I'm going to fight off whatever the sickness is. And in times like when you're crazy sick, it's wonderful. It's so my body's like stuck in overdrive. So like the whole fight or flight, I'm constantly in fight mode and my body's constantly in fight mode. And my body is in such fight mode that it attacks myself as well.
It's like an insecure person who takes every interaction as them person offending them.
Yes.
And so they're constantly like
yeah. And then and
defensive.
what's crazy is one day I won't react to something, but another day I can. And it's like my body way overreacts, right? So like if I eat something that I shouldn't, I look 9 months pregnant. And it's like people are like, sure, I'm so, and it's like, no, I legit do. Like it's weird. My body just does.
maybe 4 months.
Okay, 4 months pregnant, thanks. I mean, I was a really big pregnant person. I feel like I was a normal person at 9 months, but me at 4 months. Or like I recently was on a medication. I broke out head to toe in hives. And it's like, really, Jesus, like, are there not enough other crazy things? And I feel like those moments where I'm tempted to go to despair, where it's like, I really need to lean in and just pray and offer it up and truly offer it up. Not a woe is me, not a pity party, but like, okay, Jesus, here this is. We all have crosses, whether you have chronic pain or health issues or whatever, we all have crosses and we all have pains in our lives that we would love to switch with someone else. But God's given them to us, or he's allowed this to happen for whatever reason, right? And it's like, I can either turn and try to fight it all the time, or I can embrace it and be like, okay, Lord, what are you trying to teach me in and through this? So it is so humbling to be at Mass and see 80-year-olds standing, kneeling. We go to a church with a communion rail. I can't kneel anymore. I go up and I do a weird leaning over thing. So I'm coming down, to receive. But if there's been a few times that I have kneeled and both hips, knees dislocate and I'm stuck. I'm like, oh, like in excruciating pain, middle of Mass. And I'm like, okay, I could just try to stay in this spot, and it's super
Just
humbling.
really holy, just kneel at the front
Yeah,
until
there you
Mass is over, everybody's cleared out and we'll come pick you up off the floor. Yeah, what is that like? Because, like we are afraid of being judged and, because of your blood pressure issues, standing, sitting, kneeling is a great way to become exhausted and you can't kneel for the reasons you just gave. And so you're kind of leaning over the rail. So what's that like dealing with people might be thinking, why isn't she kneeling for the Eucharist? Whether they're thinking that or not, you might think that they're thinking that. And what's that experience like?
Yeah, I talked about this on my podcast before, and there was a girl who shared she's blind or like legally blind, but there's like an app or something on her phone and she's able to follow along. I don't know, something, but she always has her phone out. Or maybe she was Deaf? Deaf makes more sense. She was deaf. Sorry, I'm getting it mixed up. She was deaf and always has her phone out to follow along.
I see.
And to do the readings and everything because she can't hear what's going on in the front. And she's like, I feel like people are looking at me and judging me. And she's like, in the beginning, it upset me. And I think for me too, in the beginning, I was like, oh gosh. And then I'm like, you know what? No, like that's on them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they are. I really think most people aren't even noticing you. They're more busy with what's going on. And it's the same if you have a kid that's making noise at mass. Most other people don't notice them. It's just you. And so it's like, okay, Lord, if there are people that are looking at me and judging me, I give them over to you. And you do what you want with them and let me have peace with this is what I need to do right now. And I'm still encouraging the kids to stand, sit, kneel. And
I'm often placing my hand on your shoulder so you won't stand up.
I know you do that, which I find helpful. It's a good reminder. Or like if I'm do I get up? Do I not? And when I'm not sure, or I'll wait, like I'll let us sing the Alleluia before, like I want to stand for the gospel, but I wait until the priest is like saying what gospel, and then I stand, and then I, sometimes I can stand longer than others, but other times I just can't stand. And I think learning your limits is really good. So we have a friend that has a really fat baby, and I can hold him on good days, no problem. And I remember we were at like our homeschool co-op thing, and Sarah went, Noah.
I was going to say, this is my favorite baby, the Bruinger baby.
Oh no, he's fat too. And it would be the same for him, but this was Noah, who's just a gorgeous fat baby. But on good days I can hold him. She had to go teach, and it's like, can you hold him? And I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. Can I sit down and then you hand him to me? So it's not me being lazy, but it's like, if I hold him, I don't trust myself right now because I'm very, I don't have good grounding, and I may fall over and hurt both of us. But if I sit, I can hold him, and like learning limits like that. And so like, I'm very helpful on days that I feel good, and I'm not very helpful on days that I don't.
You mentioned your podcast earlier, and I want to give it a shout out because I'm sure there's a lot of women who are like, your wife's amazing. I think that. And we're going to follow her. So Among the Lilies is your podcast.
Yes, it is.
So
I enjoy it. It's fun.
What, this is a very sensitive question. I'm a little nervous to ask it.
Go
but I'd
for
like
it.
you to be honest. What can I do better as someone who is your husband? And I want to know, but I also know that there are a lot of people living with people with chronic pain. And what's helpful, what's not helpful.
You've actually gotten a lot better. So I think, not nagging. You don't do that. But I think for other people out there who has a spouse, not nagging them or thinking that they're lazy. I feel bad asking you, and we've had kids make comments that someone called you the more laid back parent, which is hilarious. Anyone that knows us, I don't think
laid back is not what people would say about me.
No,
which is unfortunate because Australia is supposed to be a country peopled with laid back souls.
But it's okay. I'm not laid back either. But what she meant was you don't ask her to do things, and I overly ask everyone to do things. And I'm not always good at communicating why. Like, especially if it's like, hey, would you do this? Like, would you refill the kettle? Like, I feel like I'm the only one, that beautiful Russian tea kettle, I'm the only one that refills it. And on a good day, I can do it. But on a bad day, that water pitcher, it hurts so bad to pick it up. So picking it up from the pantry and walking through the dining room and then holding it as I'm pouring. There's something about it hurts so bad. And so when I ask someone to do that, it's like.
So that's one thing I could do better is just to be like, yes, darling. Not complain, not.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you do like help with the kitchen and like groceries. Like I pretty much rely on groceries getting delivered. Like I've gotten to the point where I'm like, it's okay that Kroger doesn't know the difference between an apple and a kiwi. I'm ordering some type of fruit. I'm going to get the worst bruised fruit, but they bring it to my door and I don't need to go in. There's something about going, it's so exhausting. And I've gotten to the point where I've had to use those like electric wheelchair things in the store, but you can't do it here because they're all broken and horrible. Like I tried one day and I was like using it and it like died on me. And I'm like, all right, now I'm going to to get up and walk. So I look like a really lazy person. And it's like, what is that chick doing? She was gonna use it. It's like, nah, I can walk better. So I get up and walk around. Or same with like, I'll park. I don't always park in the handicap, but I have a handicap pass. And on bad days, I park in handicap. But sometimes I think I'm having a good day. But then by the time I'm done walking around the store to walk back to a normal spot, like it's too far. It's exhausting. Like I've sat on things in the store and been like, all right, I just need to regain my strength to get back out there. So you run into the store for me is huge, you know, carrying, lifting big things.
Because I think why it's good to have you say this is when you live with somebody who's in constant pain, it's difficult to hear them afresh. Like I feel like sitting here with you, I am hearing you maybe for the first time in a long time. Because when you're in pain for like 16 years of our marriage, it's like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but eventually it kind of just becomes like the background kind of noise.
Yeah.
Not that it's not important, but it's like, yeah, I know you're in pain. Like I know. It's like when someone's always sick, and I'm sure that's so difficult for people who are constantly sick, is because they want to convey how they're feeling, but when they've been saying it for so long, it's not that the person doesn't believe them. It's just like, yeah, I know. Like I know you're sick, but it's like you're trying to communicate something new with the same language of ow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
What's that like? And how can people like me who live with people with chronic pain do a better job?
I think talking to me, like this is good. This is good to have the conversation. You don't have to talk to your spouse that suffers with lights and cameras and everyone on YouTube, but just having this conversation, I think is huge. And then not trying to get other people to do what is my job. Like this is something that it's helpful, but then it's also not helpful. So like hiring cleaners, I appreciate that. Like that is good. You work harder. We pay someone to come in and clean the house once a week. That is good, but it's a lot on me to tidy the house before they come. And we've had that conversation and you've gotten better about like, okay, before I go to work, what can I do? Okay, so pick up, tidy, so then they can come in and clean. But I think sometimes you're like, we just need someone here every day to help you. And I'm like, I don't want that. Like I want you to help me. I want the kids to help me. I don't want to, and I do, we just hired someone else. We've had helpers that have come in and helped. That's humbling and really hard. And oftentimes I don't want more of that. I just want you to understand and be okay. Like I used to always try to make the bed for you because I knew you felt loved by that. That's energy I don't have right now. So I don't make the bed. You do, which is great. Thank you.
I usually do it at 5 p.m. when I come home from work and then we get into bed.
Yeah, because I'm still in bed by the time you get out of bed.
No, that's not what I meant. Oh, I see.
No, but that's true too.
Yeah.
So there is something too where I have nights where my pain is just so much, or I have GI issues and I don't sleep. And for some reason I can sleep. Well, last night I just was up all night and sometimes that happens, but I feel like I almost hit a deep sleep, not to like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So like
tough.
5 to 8 or 9, I actually have a decent sleep.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you just got up and schooled the kids more quickly. And I'm like, yeah but I can't because I can't function.
Yeah.
And like, I need to move slow in the morning. Like, it's not just me. Like I used to think it's me lazy or I'm not a morning person. But now that I have all these diagnoses and I've done research, I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to move slow because my body's not functioning yet. I need to have things in place like my compression socks or like a brace or like my foot insoles or whatever, you know? And I need to go slow because I need my body to slowly get working. And it's not laziness. And not that you're saying it's laziness, but I think it's easy to look and be like, you're just being lazy. Like just get up and go more quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think communicating is huge. Cause this doesn't just affect my body and what I normally do. Like there's so many facets to it, right? Like it affects like the most intimate of our relationships, which is so hard. And it affects the house. It affects the kids. And I think it's especially hard when I was like, yeah, I've been sick on and off a lot. I've done a lot of different hospital stays, but I used to have high energy and I used to get a lot done. And I think, I don't know, we became accustomed to that. And so I think that you probably do have an expectation of me. And I think you have had to change that over the last couple of years. And you've been great with that. But yeah, I think just...
Yeah, it is hard. I think another day we'll have to have a discussion about those who are living with people who are dealing with these things, because I think this is what's so, you're right, it does affect all different, it affects so much, right? And I think the person who's living with the person in chronic pain, they have to try to deal with living with somebody in chronic pain, but they feel like a bastard because they're not the one in pain, so they shouldn't be the one asking, how do I do this? Like, how do I rethink how marriage looks and how raising kids looks and how the house should look and how I can't go on a walk with my wife, or how I can't, like that. That's hard.
Yeah.
But to complain about it just seems like you're an awful human being.
That's also the cross. Like, that's your cross.
I know. But I wonder, are there places for people to get together to see? Because I think what won't work is for people like me or people living with someone with chronic pain to be like, yeah, I just have to offer this up. Yes, you do have to offer it up, but you also need people to show you how to do that. And so I hope that there are places where, I'm not even really sure if there are, where it's like, how do I be a better husband to someone like this? How do I be a better father, a better brother,
Yeah.
Or maybe there are men with chronic pain. I guess obviously there are. Yeah. Whenever I hear about it, it seems to be women. But like, how do I, like, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And I think it's good to ask the question, and even the fact that you are asking the question, but like, this is part of our marriage vows in sickness and in health. Yeah. I am so sorry that sickness was like so much bigger than the health. I feel like will you take her in sickness and health?
Yeah.
And even like our honeymoon, like that's when I like our honeymoon phase was over so quickly because I was good and then I got really sick.
Yeah, but you make up for all the ways that you might lack physically. You know what I mean? Like, you're really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. This has not been difficult. It's been difficult. For sure it's been difficult.
Yeah.
But like, on a good day, I wouldn't trade any of it.
Thanks.
Yeah. So it's not like, you find ways to make things work.
Yeah.
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 Even if it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it wasn't this, it would be something else.
Well, and that's the thing with
like
my
such
sickness.
A blah thing to say, but let me just kind of unroll that for a bit. Like, if it wasn't this, it's not like we'd be walking around and having nothing to complain about. There would just be something that looked like Mount Everest that we had to overcome that would be nothing compared to this, but we don't have this as a reference point. And so this other thing. Well,
we had Mount Errigal in Ireland.
In Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, and we had other things to overcome then. And it's...
Yeah. I once went to confession here on campus. I was just really struggling to love you. And I was just getting frustrated with you being sick and just... I knew it wasn't your fault, right? Like, I knew that objectively, but it was just like, everything was just so frustrating. And I went to confession and I confessed that, and it was nice. I got a nice slap. It was, he's like, well, buddy, you promised in sickness and health, and guess what? Now's sickness. So what are you going to do? I was like, all right, ease up, man. No, I was so grateful for that. But
I think in fairness to you too, it went from, I would have these sick flare-ups in Georgia. So it would be like maybe once a month or every 3 months, I would just get crazy sick and like not function. And then when we moved to Steubenville, it was like always not functioning. Like within the first 6 months, I think I had three different week-long hospital stays.
Yeah. This has been the most difficult thing. We even, like, there's a video online people can go check out. It was when you and I announced that we were moving to Steubenville. Remember that video?
Oh, yeah.
We look 10 years younger.
Yeah, we have aged.
Significantly.
Yeah.
I feel like we both have.
Yeah.
I got so much more white in my beard and in my hair.
I move like a grandpa.
Or a grandma.
Or that. Yeah. I don't know. My dad was like getting out of a chair, like making noises. And then I did the same thing. He was like, oh, Cameron. I'm like, Dad, you sound the same. He's like, yeah, but I'm an old man. I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah. No, but that's important, because just like you wouldn't get any better if you weren't allowed to express how much pain you're in and how difficult things are. Someone living with people with chronic pain, they need to also find a way to express this. But how would you recommend someone do that?
I think finding someone
you probably have like your cup is full, like, and as much as like you might want to hear me, or a woman or a husband might want to hear their spouse, maybe they're not in the place to take any more on because they're suffering as enough as it is. Yeah.
I think finding someone that's been there before you, that's come through it.
Yeah.
So like I've mentioned to you, like talk to Plato or talk to,
That was huge. Yeah.
and I think having someone that's been there before, I think it's the same with like being a dad and like adjusting to that. Like we got thrown a really crazy, colicky, sick baby, and we were alone in a freezing cold house
in Ireland,
you know, and I still remember Sheena Foy sitting us down and like doing an intervention,
That
and
was
she's
so
like,
helpful.
you have a hard baby. I'm like, no, I don't. He's fine. I don't know why I had an Irish accent, but she's like, oh no, he's very rough. You're killing Matt here. You got to let him know it's very hard. You have a hard baby.
That was painful for me because we had a hard life with that beautiful child who just happened to be colicky, and I felt like I was like, this is freaking hard. And you're like, no, it's great. And I feel like we both needed to change.
Yeah.
Right. Like I feel like I needed to be validated in why this was so painful, so I could like ease off telling you all the time that it was so painful. And you needed to kind of agree with me without falling into despair.
Yeah.
You know, this is tough. This is friggin' tough.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah. And I think we both were in survival mode and we just went at it different ways. So I was hospitalized with Liam more than I wasn't. So I was pregnant for almost 10 months, 9.5 months. And I spent over half that time in the hospital. In the beginning, it was like dehydration because I was vomiting and everything. And then it was crazy stomach pains. And then it was all these contractions, and they thought he was coming early. And like, it was just a lot. Right. And then never mind his birth. Right. I labored for what? 3 days, and then finally ended up with an emergency C-section, and my epidural didn't take. I mean, that was excruciatingly painful.
Bless you.
And then because I had so the epidural didn't take, but they had to get him out. His heart rate he was in trouble. I was in trouble. And I still remember the anesthesiologist being like, you can't do anything. The doctor's like, we need to get the baby out. It's like, cut me open, just do it. And they strapped me down, which I find so fascinating. My arms were straight out. So this is not an American C-section. I need you to know. We were in Ireland. So people that had a C-section in the 70s, before I was born, that's what my C-section was. So it was pelvic bone to pelvic bone, my whole body. And
man, I can't even hear this without wanting to throw up. I
do you
can't
remember
imagine
this?
going through it.
You went through it.
Of course,
you were there.
Well, I went through it. I didn't get through it.
Well, they rushed you out of the room. I started reacting from
My
pain, and then they put me
gosh.
under, and so they took you out of the room. And I remember coming to and just saying, this is my body given up for you. Jesus, I love you. I entrust this child to you.
Yeah.
And not knowing if he or she was alive. And then because I had all my GI issues, they didn't give me medicine. Do you remember? They wouldn't give me any pain meds. They gave me Panadol. Why don't you explain to the Americans what Panadol is?
It's Tylenol.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I couldn't even walk until like day 7. I was in excruciating pain. You snuck me an extra strength Panadol.
I'm pretty cool. I would have been cooler if I snuck you in whiskey.
Or morphine, something more powerful. Yeah, like you don't cut a woman open and then like,
anything.
good luck.
Yeah.
But it was rough. And I feel like we both were in survival mode. And yeah. I don't even know where we were going with that. Sorry. But the cross. What else?
I just got a text from Father Jason. I didn't mean to look at it, except it popped up and I wanted to read it. He says, a very pious and loving family in one of our Ukrainian parishes lost a baby at birth last night. Would you pray for them, Matt? I'm not going to say their names. Yeah, but we just ask through the intercession of God, through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin, for the healing of these parents and the pain they're going through, and for the salvation of their little baby. Yeah, brutal. Yeah, life's hard.
Life is hard.
It's freaking hard. That's the one thing Peterson gets right. I think that's partly why we love him so much.
Because he says life's hard.
It's like, yeah, it's brutal. Like, he'll kick the shit out of you. And all of you at some point will be destroyed, and it'll be worse than you think it will be. And we're all like, thank God someone said it, because I thought I was weird, you know? Like you get all those cliche, crappy quote posters at high schools about walk a mile in another person's shoes. You ever heard the joke to that one?
No.
I told Avila this. She loved it. Yeah, you've heard the joke. You've heard the...
Yeah, oh yeah, I know the
before
saying.
you judge somebody, before you make fun of somebody, walk a mile in their shoes. Because when you make fun of them, you'll be a mile away from them and you'll have their shoes.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to admit, life is hard. And that's another thing that they say with like chronic pain and everything is mentally, like keeping your head. So many people struggle with depression and anxiety. And then when you don't have validation, you go to despair.
Yeah.
And like not going there and not overly focusing on the sickness. And
could we take questions from our local supporters?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to.
If it's okay, could you try to keep the answers concise because there's a lot of questions here.
All right.
So, let's see. Ilhal says, hope this won't be too difficult. Recently, a Canadian company, Simons, maybe, ran a TV ad celebrating a woman who decided to utilize assisted suicide to end her pain. I believe she suffered from the same syndrome that your wife suffers from, EDS. What would Cameron say to those contemplating such a sad solution? What would you say to that woman who wanted to kill herself and then did?
There is hope. This is why I don't know how you can suffer and not know Jesus. Like, you've got to lean in on him. Know the Lord. Like, turn to him. Give your pain over to him. And there is hope. Like, life. I have a great life. I love my life. I have beautiful, amazing kids.
Great husband.
Great, good-looking husband with a lovely face. You people stop telling him to grow his beard back. But there is hope. I think part of it is we also live in a world where we don't want to be a bother to anyone else. So I think people turn to euthanasia to be like, it's the right thing to do. No, it's not. Like, your suffering will help you grow and make you a better person. And it also makes all those around you grow and become better people. Like, I really want to talk to Father Dave. His mom had MS. I've heard him mention it like briefly, but he talks about the beauty of that. And like, she was a good mom. And he talks about loving her. And I'm like, okay, that didn't ruin you. It didn't ruin you that you didn't have a healthy mom. Like you have to have hope. And I don't know how to do it if you're not religious. Like, you've got to turn to God. I don't know how else you would.
A lot of tequila.
No, that makes the dizziness even worse.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to say this because it might sound like I'm just trying to like say something nice to you for the sake of it, but like, you're a freaking fantastic mother. And I'm so glad that you're the kind of mother who hops around the house saying, praise you, Jesus, than the kind of mother who gets up early and goes to CrossFit every morning or something. Like, it'd be nice if you did both, I guess, but like, it's really cool that like, you're a great mom. Freaking great mom.
Thanks. That's how the kids imitate me. Praise you, Jesus. Praise you, Jesus.
That's how they make fun of you. It's a good way to be making fun of you. Yeah. All right. Let's see. A Griffin Love says, how to navigate concerns over slothfulness. As someone with a degenerative condition, I find it hard to determine the line between taking care of my body and its needs for rest, when sometimes that means putting myself and my desire for rest before work, spousal duties, events, and sometimes even church. So just to kind of maybe sum this up, like, I see your point where it's like, you don't understand how much I need to rest. And if I push myself, I will actually get worse. But surely you've asked yourself the question, at what point am I just being, like, is it possible that I can still be lazy, or is that no longer a possibility because I have this sickness? Like, where's that line? Yeah.
So I am not someone, we all have certain sins that we're drawn to.
Yeah.
Slothfulness is not one that would be on my radar, really.
Yeah.
I used to think I was lazy. Like, as a kid, I got told that I was lazy a lot. And I remember like that was a lie. I address it in Kristalina Everett's new book. I wrote a chapter on lies for her, Women Made New. But I talked about it, and I remember a friend of mine on net said, like, why would you think you're lazy? Like, you're one of the most doer type people I know. You just get stuff done, and you're like, why do you think you're lazy? Yeah. And I was like, well, because I think about myself first, or whatever, like whatever my reasons were. She's like, no, like, that's not. And so it was eye-opening to be like, okay, no, I'm not.
No,
like,
not
I don't. So I think different temperaments
in fact, I can't keep up with you. The few days that you felt good, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. Where are we going?
I think different temperaments have different sins they're more likely to be. And I think phlegmatics maybe would struggle. Like, I remember telling a friend about the whole like mow a fourth of the lawn, sit and rest. She's like, I would love that disease. That would be so good for me. She's very phlegmatic and melancholic. But for me, it's a huge cross. So I don't struggle with it. I do feel that I don't do as much and I sit, But I try to pray. I try to read. I try to be with my kids. I try to be present. That's why I like sitting in the recliner chair with my feet up. And it's like, okay, I'm there. I'm still in the center of everything.
Yeah.
The podcast is secondary. Like I will go too long between episodes. I'm not consistent. I fail at it. But my main thing is not the podcast.
No, you
my
don't
main
fail
thing
at
is you and the kids.
Yeah, but you also don't fail at it. Like actually as a podcaster, not talking about like as a mother who's got to keep her duties in check. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying like it would be better for you to put out a meaningful podcast once every 2.5 weeks than to spit out something for the sake of spitting it out. And your episodes are really good, I think.
Thanks.
Katie says, because of my health issues, I struggle with getting excited about anything that requires effort, planning, food prep, especially travel, even if it's something I should really be excited about. How do you manage or set healthy expectations for travel based on your body's capabilities?
Yeah, so I always have to bring my own food. So I have certain foods that I know that I can have. So if I'm traveling, I normally hit up a Trader Joe's because I have set things that I can buy there, or a Whole Foods. I'll bring RX bars, plantain chips. I'll have enough. And I've learned that I'm better off fasting than just eating what's in front of me. So I try to bring enough food for when I'm traveling, and then I can't eat at most restaurants. So I find if I go to a sushi restaurant, I'm okay with sushi, but I need to bring my own coconut aminos. I'm less likely to react, where if I go to a steak restaurant, I've had like a steak and a baked sweet potato, and I've been crazy sick. And I think it's because of an oil or something they use. So learning, okay, and then if I go, even just going to a party or something, I always eat ahead of time or bring something that I can eat because it's not worth that sickness. And then I travel with my pillow. I travel with my compression socks, knowing certain things that I'm like, okay, these are the things I need. And then as humbling as it is, when I travel, I get a wheelchair. When I get to the airport, there's something about airports. It's a lot of walking, a lot of fluorescent lights, a lot of like pulling a suitcase. Like it hurts really bad. I can suck it up and do it, but then I wreck myself for the next week. So I will get the wheelchair assistance. I'll park in the handicap spot, get the wheelchair assistance. And then only if and then once I can walk on the plane myself. They don't need to wheel me down. I've done it where like the kids have pushed me. Like I've traveled with the kids and you weren't with me, and I let them push the wheelchair. And so, because I was really nervous, I'm like, I feel really bad, but I don't know how else to do this. And I asked them, I'm like, what do you guys think? Like, should I get a wheelchair and one of you could push me, or should we all just kind of walk and maybe one of you hold? Oh my goodness, that'd be so fun. Can we do that? I'm like, yes, let's do it. So I kind of turned it into a game. And it's super humbling, but being prepared, or I have like a hip brace thing that I'll wear. So knowing things that you can do to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So we've kind of answered this question, but I've got a spin on it. All right. So Enrique says, how can I best support my spouse with her chronic pain if she doesn't seem to want to get better from it herself? Whew, actually, I didn't know where that question was going. I thought it was just going to be, how do I support my wife, which we kind of talked about. But if she doesn't seem to want to get better, what would you say? And what the spin I was going to put on it is, because somebody says this is my question as well, is like, rather than like generally like, well, you could be more helpful. Like, what's one thing Enrique can do today, would you say, to help his wife who, in his estimation, doesn't seem to want to get better?
Look her in the eye, tell her that you love her. You're sorry she's going through this. You believe her. You believe her symptoms. Now, does she truly not want to get better, or does she just think there's a bunch of other diseases and things? Because that's legit. Like that is legit, that like, okay, this is what's wrong with me right now. And it's even people like even cancer, like cancer falls into this. Cause here's the thing, like if you have cancer, it's like, okay, I'm going to fight cancer, and then you overcome it. And people are like, oh, you're in remission. That's great. You're over it. It's like, no, every year that they have to go for whatever test to see if the cancer's back, that's coming back, that anxiety. And everyone else is like, no, you dealt with it. You fought cancer. You're done. But to that person, it's like, I have to relive that. Like there's people that have been cancer free for 30 years, but every time they go for a mammogram or a colonoscopy, that fear and that like knowing like it may come back. They may say, actually, it's everywhere and you're going to die.
Wow. I had never thought of that before. So that's a great point. So what might be being perceived as she doesn't want to get better or he doesn't want to get better, first of all, it's understandable. I mean, when you've got 8,000 conditions and you've got 1,000 experts telling you 1,000 different things.
Yeah, like, I desperately want to get better.
The amount of pills you have is insanity.
Like, I agree. It's ridiculous.
Like there was one time I came home and I made you lunch, and by the time I had finished it, you were still filling up your little pill containers.
And that was just for the week. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it is supplement. Like some of them are drugs that I need to keep my blood pressure up, or so I can keep food down. But a lot are supplements. Like my body doesn't. Like I take so many like magnesium supplements, but it doesn't show up in my body. My body just has a hard time receiving. And so I have really good doctors that are helping me, and different doctors have tried different plans. So it's like when I hit a dead end with one, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this one, you know? And I'm not like, I talked about going to Florida to this chiropractor. I almost feel bad calling him a chiropractor. This healing guru man that I really like, he makes me feel so much better. Like no one has. And he presses like, it's cranial something or other.
Honest to God, like so this fella was here in Steubenville. You went over, he did a few things on your back and your head or whatever. You came out, I would have swore it was a healing. It was that remarkable. Your whole countenance looked different.
I felt so much better.
What did that man do?
Yeah.
How do I get him to live with us?
I've flown down to Orlando, and I'm going again. I'm driving down because he does give me so much more healing. And I think oftentimes with chronic stuff, it's like sometimes you do something. So you have to weigh the withdrawals and deposits. So you do things that give you deposits, which are really good, like sitting and putting your feet up, taking your electrolytes, wearing your support belts, whatever it is, you know, compression socks, whatever the things are, and they help give you deposits. Some are little deposits and others are large. Sometimes it's acupuncture, sometimes. But anyhow, I was talking about him, and someone wrote in the comments and they were like, you need to go to a real doctor because you actually have real diseases. Chiropractors don't do anything. I'm like, okay, well, obviously you haven't been following me and you don't know that I have tons of specialists and I do have real doctors, and I'm not going to him to crack my back to make me better. Like he does a bunch of other stuff as well. Yeah. So I think letting her know and then asking her, like ask her, do you want to get better? I want to help you get better and see. My guess is she may break down and say, I don't think I can get better. And she's in a place of despair, and you need to love her. Pick her up and say, listen, we got this. We will fight it together. I love you. We're in this together. There is hope. We'll try a different doctor. We'll try a different approach. I don't know how many times we've like pivoted to a different, and sometimes you feel like you're giving up because you've tried one thing. But like, I think about the time I was in the hospital in West Virginia, and they were so focused on, they just wanted to do a colonoscopy to get things to move or whatever. And they couldn't pivot. Like they were trying all the same things, and I was just so sick, and they were doing like colonoscopy preps and every enema under the sun. And they're like, we should have cleared out a 500-pound man. What's wrong with you? I'm like, I know I have issues. I don't know what to tell you. Could we try something else? And like, no, we just need to. And they couldn't redirect. And so they just kept me in, and eventually did like a NG tube and like got me kind of good enough. And then afterwards they were like, yeah, I think you just have really bad IBS. And it's like, no. What about, why couldn't you clear me? Like, what was that? Like, what was going on there? And they're like, we don't know. Or you're fine. And I was like, no, I'm not fine. But they couldn't shift. And so that's kind of when I shifted to the nurse actually was like, I think you need to look into Cleveland Clinic. They look at a bigger picture. Mayo Clinic looks at a bigger picture. So I think just telling her, asking her, don't assume that she doesn't want to get better. I think oftentimes with chronic stuff, people assume they like being sick. Yeah. I don't like it.
Katie says, so many excellent questions already listed. I too deal with chronic pain and those mystery illnesses that seem to befall women these days. I was diagnosed with Lyme's last year. On one of Cameron's YouTube videos, I asked if she was on an antihistamine diet, and she said she is. I have food intolerances and have had to do restrictive diets, like ones that don't add to inflammation, and the antihistamine diet. Since it already limits my food intake significantly, I find it challenging to observe fast and meatless days, especially with time and financial limitations. How does Cameron handle these days of fasting and meatless days?
So like,
if you're sick, you're not required to fast.
Yeah. And I think especially, like finding, so I have certain things that I'm like, okay, I can do like RX makes this nut butter that tastes like cookie dough. I love it. It's so really good.
It's like dates and almonds.
Yeah,
right?
It's dates and almonds, but I handle it very well. And so I'll do that. I will definitely have Fridays. Like we try not to eat meat as families on Friday, but I will. It's like, okay, well, this is the only thing I can have.
Kidding. I'd be
I'm fasting in other
force-feeding it to
ways.
you.
I have other ways I have other things that I'm offering up.
Yeah.
It's like the vegetarian fasting from meat on Fridays.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. That doesn't count. You're a vegetarian.
and I
Find
would
something else.
Say to Katie, I don't know you obviously, but if you're struggling with scruples regarding this, consult your parish priest and allow him to dispense you if that would help.
Yeah.
Okay, this person says, let's see, Cappuccine Tosi, how to differentiate between self-care and self-indulgence. When do you draw the line between I need to get rest, get a massage, and I need to accept the pain and fulfill my duties? This is very hard for me, whether it is regarding my work or even fasting seasons. God bless you and your wife. I live with EDS too, and it's a life full of surprises to say the least.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we self-indulgence and self-care, like where's the line?
I think that it's easier if you have a family because they will tell you if I was being more self-indulgent, you would call me on it. The kids would call me on it. I think if you're a single person, that's a little harder. You could probably do more things. I should go more. I should be getting massages. I should.
Please do that.
What's hard is I don't know if I'm going to have a good day or bad day to go do it.
Right.
So if I can do it last minute, it's the same with I should go get someone else to wash my hair one day a week. Like this was $35 well spent.
Okay.
Like a part of me is like, I'm like, it's ridiculous to pay $35 for someone to wash and blow dry my hair. But then it's like, okay, that wipes me out for 2 days.
Yeah.
$35 is totally worth having 2 days of my life back.
What about if we could find a masseuse to come to the house? Would that be better?
Maybe. But then again, is it a good day or bad day?
Yeah.
So I think if
you just have to lay on your stomach. How bad can it be?
well, there's some days. Do you remember when we got that couples massage and I was like screaming and like, and the woman's like, I need you to know that I'm touching you. So she was like massaging both sides of my back. She's like, but I was freaking out on my left side. It was killing. And she's like, I just need you to know this is how I'm touching you. And on my right side, it was fine. But my left side, it was killing me. It was so painful. And I think that's something with the brain triggering pain signals. So yeah, I think take it to prayer too. And like, okay, what am I doing? Is this self-care? So for me, I need to do my red light therapy. I try to do it every morning and night. It doesn't always happen. There's certain things that are just required. I need to do. Mm-hmm. I think I err on the not doing enough. So
I think that's right. I wish you would do more.
But I will like go to Orlando.
Yeah.
Because I see such huge results.
It'd be sweet if you lived in Miami. It'd be so much cooler than Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could go there instead. I'd come with you if you lived in Miami.
You don't want to come to Orlando, but you'll go to Miami. Really. All right. If you're listening, doctor.
Peter says, perhaps somewhat tangentially related, but I'm an Orthodox husband to a nominally Protestant wife who suffers with chronic fatigue. See, this is what I said earlier. Like, everyone I encounter who says they have chronic illness is a woman. I know obviously there are men who struggle with chronic illness and chronic pain, but like in your experience, is it mainly women as well? Like what's going on? So
for me, yes, it is women, and but it's also my audience. Like that's who I'm speaking to. Yeah. I think part of it is they say that just as they say like black people don't get as good of care, like people stereotype them, or people with tattoos will get a stereotype going into an ER. They say that's the same with women going into an ER. They are more likely to give them just like pain meds, like something, they don't take it as seriously as a man. A man coming in, even if heart attack symptoms, man and woman, same symptoms. They act more quickly for him than they do for her.
Really? Why do you think that is?
I think there is a stereotype that women are not as strong as men.
It's
and
true.
we don't handle pain as well. Yeah. That is bollocks.
That is not true.
We handle pain so much better than men.
Whenever they give me a needle.
Yeah. No. And we, every month.
I have mild to moderate Crohn's.
Oh, do you? Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah.
There are definitely guys that have it, but I think you're right. I think there is more.
Like, I mean, is chronic pain a new thing? I
think we found a term that we didn't use before.
Yeah.
So like Crohn's disease has been around for a while, but not even that long. Or like the whole, we were saying ADD, now it's ADHD. Like we learn more about it. And same with fibromyalgia, EDS. It's like, okay, wait, all these people have the same pain and they have these weird things with their body and these diseases. So we're coming out with things like, oh, this is the thing. And then a lot of them are under the umbrella of, and so like an acute illness is like you break your arm and then it heals. You're done. Chronic stuff you have, I think the definition is like 3 months or longer, but most people it's your life.
I see.
It's a lifelong illness.
I just realized I was only halfway through this man's question.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. He says chronic fatigue, this is his wife, and autoimmune disorder. What advice would you give to someone who wants to be a good spouse to someone who is often incapable of fulfilling the trad wife role without compromising on being a spiritual leader in the home? I don't fully understand the question, but... Well, I mean, it is a good question. Like, I mean, there is perhaps more pressure on wives in traditional families to fulfill certain duties, and they might take their identity in that, right? Like, I'm the wife. I need to keep a clean house. I need to care for my kids, care for my husband. I need to homeschool. I need to be going to mass every day. And like, you know, so what advice do you have to someone maybe who's putting that much pressure on themselves? And
I think he needs to...
And to the spouse, yeah.
Yeah, I think so I don't normally clean the kitchen. It's you and the kids.
Yeah.
There's something about standing for that long and picking up heavy. I have cast iron things. Oftentimes I need you guys to pick it up for me. So you and the kids clean the kitchen more. I do more of the cooking, but y'all like help clean up behind me.
Yeah.
And it makes it so I can cook for you, right?
Yeah.
So I think taking on things that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. So like vacuuming or whatever. Yeah, I think, and also like, I think trying to find help. So I think just saying you have chronic fatigue. Yeah, I have chronic fatigue too, but not just taking it that I'm always going to be tired. It's like, okay, I'm trying these different supplements and some of them are helping. This California poppy is like a miracle drug. It's like this, I don't know if it's called, I forget what the name of it's standard processing. And there's a supplement that I'm taking. And like the first day I took it, I was like,
really?
Whoa.
How cool.
Like it's the way coffee kind of wakes you up a little bit. This drug does that for me.
Wow.
And same with low dose naltrexone at night. If you use it, it won't help you sleep, but it helps me sleep.
Also, I tell you, crack cocaine has really helped you too. Cleaning the kitchen a lot faster than you used to.
I do not
you used
use
to be
cocaine.
like, blah, blah, I need to listen to a podcast. But when you started taking crack cocaine, felt like you really just...
False. But also like magnesium, like high doses of magnesium at bedtime. Anyhow.
Ray Legion says, Matt, I'm a physician and in a rural setting without specialists, and I find chronic pain to be difficult for both provider and patient. I have found that hand-holding or walking along with the patient is my biggest role. It's a very subjective experience and different for every person, with many times medicine being a cover-up rather than a cure. Whom does your wife trust more? The very aggressive provider who'll get to the bottom of it no matter what, or the more conservative provider who will be there when you need someone to talk to? What's his question? Who do you trust more?
Yeah. So I've gone through different experiences. So when I'm like really, really sick and in the hospital, I want someone finding answers. So that neurologist that sat in my room and I was like, do you think I'm crazy? He's like, no, like you're really sane. That's the problem I'm having because like the MRI is not showing anything. Something's seriously wrong with you. And the fact that you like, and it was like time, like, I don't know. So but he was digging in and looking for the answer, even though he didn't have it.
Yeah.
I think the doctors that I've had that have been my favorite combine the East and the West. They're not, you have to be on medicine. We're going to make like, here's 50 billion pills. And they're not like, if I adjust you, you'll be fine. They're in between. And it's
if
like,
you just
okay.
use doTERRA behind the ears.
I do use some oils, but they don't cure me at all. They help clear out my sinuses sometimes. But I think doing both, but also encouraging them to get more answers and letting them, like, you're your own advocate, like figure it out. Like my POTS diagnosis came because Mother Natalia, you had her on this show and it was the two of you talking and you're like, wait, I think you know what my wife has.
That's right. Yeah.
And then I went to a doctor and was like, I think I have this. And it was like, why did no one else find that? Like encourage your patients to be their own advocates and don't stay on medicine that doesn't work. Like I've been on medicine long enough to like, so like my medicine, my Metadrin, I think it is. It helps keep my blood pressure up. I don't take it all the time because I have some days where I don't need it. If I take enough electrolytes, I can keep it up. And I take some other supplements as well, but I have it for when I need it. Or like pain meds, like sometimes like morphine won't touch my pain, but gabapentin helps immensely. And it's something because it's neurological. And same with different therapies, like physical therapy or like help them look for things, but tell them to be their own advocate.
Yeah. Okay. Little something says, not chronic pain, but chronic illness. When you suffer chronically, is it actually frivolous to go to 4,000 doctor appointments and get all of the expensive supplements, treatments, and medicines they recommend? If Jesus wanted me well right then, he would make me well. If he doesn't want to do that, the medical expenses seem like a frivolity, even though Jesus might want to give other people the chance to cooperate with him in the treatment. It's hard to know when to call it quits. How much money can I lavish on my sick self before I know I am incurably sick until heaven? Especially in the days of inflation, it seems like I could be spending my medical expense money on more appropriate place.
Yeah, that's hard. And I hear that. And I think every person has to decide on their own. I think if you're in a situation where you keep hitting dead ends and nothing's helping, stop going there.
Yeah.
So for me, for a while, I was very aggressive going to Cleveland Clinic. Like it's a 2.5 hour drive. I think at one point I had like six different specialists. But then once I got certain diagnoses, I was like, okay, now I need to look at this. How do I heal this? And then I found this doctor in Columbus that's more, full integrative medicine. And it's like, okay, I'm going to try that. I'm going to go that route. And I think you have to listen to your body. I can sit up straight now. There was probably a year and a half that I had to be curled up in a ball.
Yeah.
So because I went after those things, I found things and have helped kind of heal.
Yeah. How encouraging is that to find healing in one area? Is it?
It is, but then there's always something else.
I know there's
right?
always something else, but the fact that something's working for something's got to be something.
Yeah. And I think being willing to go to extremes, like I've done like the GAPS diet where I only had bone broth for the longest time, or low histamine, like watching like any autoimmune diet I've tried. And I do have to be careful with inflammation. But like my health is worth it. So what's funny is like, okay, I spend that much money to go see a doctor who's going to give me 5 minutes of his time. Why would I not spend actually less money to fly to Florida to a guy that just makes me feel better? I don't understand it. I don't know why. He like presses on and he like moves my joints where I'm in excruciating pain. He holds it like right as the bone's about to pop out. And he's like, just wait, breathe. And then it goes from being the most pain and then all of a sudden there's no pain.
Yeah, I want to buy this man everything he ever wants. Like, what does he want? I'll get it for him. I just love him so much. I'm so grateful to this man. Yeah.
But like that's worth it. So for me, it's like, okay, that does seem ridiculous. You have like 20 chiropractors within a 10-minute, 20-minute drive. And it's like, I don't know, but this guy can help me. So it's worth going to the extreme.
Bless him.
Or like the Myers cocktail. Like if you have something, they even say like saline drips, like getting a bag of fluids, like can help a lot of chronic conditions. And I've always felt that like when I go to the hospital, when I was so sick and then they just give me bags of fluid, I'm like, okay, I feel better. I don't know if it's because I'm just getting rehydrated or, it's hard and every person's so different and you can have all the same GI stuff or all the same, like I have friends with Crohn's disease and, celiac and they're like, Cameron, you have this. Like I have a lot of these things and it doesn't, I think the main thing is like, that's not my identity. I am not someone.
How hard has that been to, fight against? Because you've brought that up a couple of times now. Has that been a temptation for you to take your identity in your pain? I think
in the aspect that you feel like maybe you are crazy. Like I think you get to the point and they talk about even doctors who have like they're doctors themselves. They understand all the lingo and they're going to their doctors and like, hey, I have this weird thing going on and people are dismissing them. And it's like, I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. I know I have this pain. Like there's been situations where like people have broken bones and then the bone technically healed, but their limb is like limp and the ligaments are all messed up and the nerve endings are all messed up and they can't use it. And it's like, what is that? Like, and they can't figure it out. And they're like, I think you need to see a psychologist.
Golly. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'll see a psychologist, but also my arm's limp and I can't use it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think being your own advocate, fighting for it. And I think sometimes you go online and you find some diagnosis, whatever it is, chronic pain, and you find other people and you're like, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
There's other people that have all these weird things.
Yeah.
And they also have these other weird things that I didn't think was related to any of my health stuff.
It makes sense why people would want to take their identity in a place where they finally feel accepted.
Yes.
But
yeah.
you're saying don't do that.
No, because I think that pigeonholes you. And I think it makes you, I feel like it kind of almost makes you give up. And you're like, this is who I am. This is my identity. This is who I'll always be. And your identity, it's the same with like, I think it goes back to like, okay, my identity is that I am a woman. Like, it's like, my identity is more than that. Like, I am Cameron Fradd. That is who I am. I am a daughter of God. I am your wife, which is such a gift, right? I'm the mother of our amazing, beautiful children. Like there's so much more to me than one thing.
Yeah. What have you found to be some helpful resources that people could easily turn to? Are there any podcasts you've listened to about chronic pain? There's
a handful.
Yeah.
I don't know any of their names. Last night I was kind of looking at a bunch of them. I feel like I go through times of not doing any research and then overly researching, which is also hard. It's like, where's the balance? Like some people say you shouldn't do that at all. Like I've done some programs where it's like, I am a healthy, strong, powerful woman. And you say that to yourself every day and you're like, okay, but I'm kind of lying to myself. So,
yeah. What about how important is it to have things to look forward to?
I think very.
Not spiritual things. I don't mean that. I just mean concrete things that you enjoy in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you need to. I think you need to still live your life. Like you need to go on trips. It may be hard and you may get sick, but it's worth the risk. Mm-hmm. I think that there is, like sometimes like I'll just not be having the greatest day and it's like, okay, but there's this thing downtown. I'm like, I'd rather go. I don't want to sit. And I'm extremely extroverted, so I think it's easier for me to be like, no, I want to go out. So I could only imagine what it's like for introverts. I think introverts, I think that would be a lot harder. Yeah. Because it's easier just to fall into the backgrounds and shadows and be like, it's just too hard. But like, keep putting yourself out there, keep living your life and having like on a good day, we do go for a walk around the block, like. Yeah. Like it's a short little walk. Like I look forward to walking to the park and then through the cemetery and then back home. Like how many miles do you think that is? A mile?
The one that I do?
Yeah.
3.
Okay, 3.
2 or 3.
So I used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I look forward to being able to do that again.
Yeah.
I can't right now, but I look forward. I think I will get healed enough that I can do that.
If you knew right now that you're never going to get any better, what would that do to you? Like, what does that feel like when I just say that? Like, this is it. You're actually not going to get better. You might be able to maintain some semblance of...
Yeah. I think having a positive, still telling myself, I can do it is huge. I need that mental... Yeah. I need that hope. Without hope, there's euthanasia. Like, I think that... if you focus on the burden that you are to all those around you and that you're always going to be suffering, if you don't believe in redemptive suffering, then it's all hopeless. So I think you have to have faith. You have to lean on God and and I don't mean to be preachy. I feel like I'm not a preachy person. I feel like I'm almost coming off as preachy. But I think when you are in pain and you are dealing with sickness, yes, these are things that I'll always have, but there is God's grace in it. And there's got to be hope. Like, I don't know. I think about the endometriosis. Like when I was 19, 20 years old, it's like, you probably won't be able to have kids. Like it's really bad. Like your female stuff, super messed up. And it's like, okay, well, by God's grace. Like, so that was our priority when we got married. It's like, we'll figure out getting jobs and things like that. Let's just get pregnant. Like, that's what we want to do. We want to have a family. And it was only because of NAPRO technology, like, praise God that we did use Creighton and that I did find out about. And then even when I got really sick and lost the last couple of babies and unfortunately had to have a hysterectomy, like, the man that did the hysterectomy specialized in endometriosis. And he's like, you shouldn't have carried a baby to term. Like,
so right.
Stuff's so messed up in here. Like, I don't know.
What the hell is going on in here?
It's he said it was like spider webs. He said it was like everything was spider webs. And then the baby that I lost saved my life, because if they had done the normal procedure, the robotics, they go in through the belly button, and my uterus, my bladder, my ovaries, and part of my intestines were all super glued to my C-section scar. It was all like keloid. And so he's like, if they had gone in, they would have cut through a bunch of stuff.
Oh.
But they didn't. That's the good news. But I think, like, yeah, like, if you focus on that, if you focus on, like, wait a minute, no, we have a doctor here saying you shouldn't be able to carry any babies to term, and you had a doctor here saying it's going to be extremely hard for you to conceive.
Yeah.
Like, there's no hope. Look at our kids. We have kids. They're great.
They're terrific. I really am a big fan.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
But if we didn't have hope in that, then well, we're just going to...
It was fun practicing for kids, right?
Yeah.
That was a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Praise God.
Yeah, I think there is, like, being... And I know not everyone's optimistic. I think but I think that's huge. I think if you can find a way to...
Sorry to cut you off.
No. See the glass as half full. You can do so much more with that.
Sure, but how the hell do you do that? Like, that's the question I think someone's going to have. They listen to this, like, terrific, good for you. You know how to offer this up. That's great. How the hell do I do that? I'd love to do it. Is there a switch? I'll flick the switch,
There's
but
no
I
switch.
don't know how.
I know. And that's really hard.
So what do you say to that person?
I've had a lifetime of practice, and you get better at it the more you do it. Like, the more you're sick, the more, and that's why I think, like, when we've left and I know you could see this too. Like, if we've gone, so I'm really bad in the cold, and we've gone to a warm place like Florida, and we're in the sun and the beach. I do very well at the beach.
Yeah.
It, like, heals me inside and out.
Why don't we live at the beach? Because Steubenville isn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it heals me inside and out, and I do so much better, and I look better, and I can move, and I can walk on the beach, and I can go swimming. And then we come back, and it's so hard because I think I get a little taste of being pain-free, or at least very bearable, like minimum pain. And it's like, I almost forget what it's like. And then I come back to the cold and the wet, and, like, everything, like, kind of goes rusty on me. I'm like the Tin Man, right? And it's so much harder. And I feel like that's when I snap at the kids. That's when I snap at you, because I don't have my mind around the pain. Does that make sense?
You don't have your mind around the pain. I don't know what that means.
Like, I forgot how to cope with it. Like, when you're in it, when you're in the thickness of it, I feel like the grace is there in the moment.
Right.
And when you've been in it for a while, I don't know, it's like easier to
live with it.
To live with it, where when you take it away and then it comes back, it's harder.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're always, I don't know, and I think knowing that, and I feel like I have gotten to the point, I'm like, I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm just in so much pain. I love you. It's not your fault. Mom needs space. Like, and just verbalizing that too. Because I definitely have had moments where, like, I lose it. And it's like, I'm sorry. Everything hurts. It's not your fault. It's my body.
You don't lose it much.
But I do lose it.
Yeah, you do sometimes, but not much.
But that's why you don't have as much practice, right?
Yeah, I lose it way more than you.
Yeah. I feel bad for saying be positive, because I know when you're in despair, it's so hard. And I think that in some ways I was blessed early in life. Like, I hit my rock bottom in junior high, and my despair and my depression. And
what you're not saying is be in a better mood. What you're saying is you need to actively choose.
Yes.
Even though it feels insane,
yes,
or like the wrong choice, or like an insincere choice.
Yeah.
You have to choose.
Yeah.
To be hopeful.
Yes. And it's like baby steps. So the first thing is just saying, like, Lord, thank you for this pain in my arm. I am living. I have a body. It hurts and it's broken, but thank you that I have it. Right? And it's like, that's a baby step, but it's a step in the right direction.
How important was that gratitude journal that
Huge.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I'm normally more optimistic. Our fourth child was a NICU baby. He almost died. He was crazy sick, always in and out of hospital. And I just felt like a failure as a mom. I didn't sleep. I was up all the time doing the math, figuring out, getting enough calories in him, dealing with him, vomiting, the feeding tube, all that stuff. And then once he started getting better, I plummeted. I had postpartum depression, horribly bad, I remember you saying, I just want my wife back. And I remember thinking...
Sure, that wasn't very helpful, sorry.
No, it wasn't. But I remember thinking, yeah, no joke. Like, you want your wife back? I want my life back. Like, I want me back. Me prior to this was awesome. I thought she sucked at the time, but now being where I am now is Debbie Downer. She was awesome. Like, I want her back. Like, I don't know how to do that. And I had beautiful friends that just love me in it. And they're like, we know who you are. I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like, I just want the whole world to go away and not want or need anything from me. And I had 4 small children who needed a lot from me and a husband who traveled a lot. And I felt so alone. And I felt like there was this big dark cloud with lightning and rain coming down on me. And I remember calling a friend of mine and telling her, I'm not depressed, but I think Matt thinks I'm depressed. And I told her how I felt. And she's like, okay, Cameron, I want you to call your doctor and tell him that you need postpartum medicine. I'm like, right, but I'm not depressed. She's like, yeah, no worries, Cameron, totally not depressed. But just tell him that and he'll give you some medicine and let's see how you feel. As soon as I started that medicine, it was like the cloud lifted. It didn't go away, but it lifted. And I could take a deep breath, I could take a deep breath. And it kind of bought me time. But I saw the world through dark lenses and everything was sad and dark. And a good friend of mine encouraged me to do a gratitude journal. She's like, you have so much to be thankful for. Like, what are you thankful for? I'm like, nothing. Life sucks. And I was in despair and I hated everything. And I just felt like a failure. Like, I failed you. I failed the kids. I failed everything. I messed up. And I just wrote down, I thought of one good thing. And honestly, some days it was, I like my robe. It's fluffy. That's what I was grateful for because I couldn't see past this. I couldn't see past the baby on the feeding tube, the kids wanting me to play with them and do all this stuff with them and running around and being crazy. And I'm like, you need to be quiet because I need to do the feeding tube thing and I need to, trying to juggle all the things. And the people that I think wanted to help me but did a horrible job of helping me, like made everything worse.
Yeah.
So little things like I'm thankful that there's modern medicine and he can have a feeding tube. I'm thankful that I can't see his ribs as much. I'm thankful I have a fluffy robe. I'm thankful Matt's home. I'm thankful that my kid's in his room screaming because he has a healthy set of lungs, like whatever it is, like finding little things. And then it's like, I'm thankful for that flower. That's a beautiful flower. And slowly I feel like my head came above water. And I think it was also God's grace. Like we happened to go on that retreat. I think it was probably like a year. So I think I had maybe a year of being on postpartum medication and I forgot it when we went on that retreat with Monsignor Essif. I can never say his name. But I remember being there and I just felt like the Lord was healing me. Like, yes, I needed medical help, but I also felt like the Lord was giving me a grace and healing me there. And I remember him coming up to me and I had Peter strapped to me. I think, was he still on a feeding tube at the time?
I don't remember.
No, I don't think he was, but a little baby, right? And I was just praying and just trying to give it over. It was a very small, intimate retreat, right? And he came over to me and he said, you are and he spotted eyes. He locked eyes. He's like, what, 90? I felt like he was like 90, older gentleman, locked eyes and moving very slowly towards me. And I'm like, well, this is a very intimate encounter. So I'm just looking at him, feeling like he could see into me. Like John Paul II used to look at me like that. Like there's a crowd of 1 million people, but he saw me. And that's how he was looking at me. And I felt very naked and vulnerable. And he's like, you are a very beautiful mother. And I was like, thank you. And he's like, are you very good about getting out of God's way and letting him work in and through you? I'm like, no, I am really bad at that, actually. I am so hard-headed and he's like, that's not what I see. I see Our Lady all around you. And she is just mothering you as you mother that baby. And I felt this healing happening inside.
Crikey.
And then later I met with him for spiritual direction and the same thing happened, right? And he's like, you think the Lord has used you and is using you in spite of your brokenness and your weakness and your flaws. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that amazing? God is so good. He's like, no. I'm like, oh, no, sorry, what? And he's like, no. Cameron, it's precisely because of your wounds and your brokenness. Every cut, every bruise, every depression, every negative thing, whether you've done it to yourself or someone else has done it to you, all those inflicted wounds on your heart, Christ shines and radiates through them like nothing else, like refinest fire, right? Like the Lord doesn't use you even though you're flawed and messed up. Exactly where you're broken, flawed, and messed up, that's where he wants to shine and heal others. And it's hard to be like, here's my broken, ugly, bruised, hurt self. Like we want to be like, look, I have it all together. Look at me with my Instagram following and my perfect house and my perfect family. And that doesn't help anyone. That makes these people feel like shit. Like that's part of why I started Among the Lilies. I'm like, these people, there's great podcasts now, but back then there weren't any. And it's like, we need any.
They all sucked.
No, that's not true. Your podcast was amazing.
No,
you were around
shut
before
up.
me.
I'm just
But I
joking.
mean, as far as women go, like I felt like women were like, we're going to be real. Sometimes I'm a bad mom and I didn't sweep the floor. And I was like, I'm going to punch her in the face. Like, this is ridiculous. People have real life problems.
Yeah.
I'm drowning in depression.
Yeah.
And like, I'm drowning with my 3 children. And then I had a sick baby on top of that. I am failing in every aspect of my life. And for some reason,
you
I felt
felt
like
you
I
were.
should say that through a microphone.
You felt you were. You weren't, but you felt you were.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was. Yeah. And I do feel like the Lord called me to say that from the rooftop. Like, I don't know why people do this, but it's like Kristalina Everett is up there on that pedestal. Leah Darrow's on that one. I don't know if Sister Miriam's up there. She probably is, but I feel like especially wives, like we're up there. Kimberly Hahn's up there and they're perfect and amazing. They have it all together. And I am a failure and I can't be where they are. And it's like, they're not up there. Like they're here with you in the muck. If anything, they're getting more crap on them, and I feel like we need to talk about that. And I feel like chronic pain is one of those things. Like having a hysterectomy, I had real life friends who didn't tell me they had medical issues and had to go through this because they felt like sinners and flawed human beings. Like it's hard. I didn't want this. And then what's worse is people say, like the world says, greatest gift you ever gave yourself, a hysterectomy. It's like, I'm not applauding this. I don't want this. This is a sick organ that I desperately want to be healthy and to have more children and to bear life. I love this about my body, but it's broken and it needs to come out. But I am no less of a woman because I don't have a womb. That doesn't mean that guy over there can be a woman. I'm so much more than a womb and a couple of chromosomes, right?
Amen.
But yeah, I think there's something to it about I'm not less of a person because of my sickness. I'm more of who I am, and the Lord is making me who he wants me to be, which is good and capable. But most days I feel flawed and broken and sick.
Yeah, thank you. You're the coolest person I know. I really like you. Whew. All right. We can wrap up unless you have anything else to say.
No, I want you to talk to that.
Oh, I just
you
love
tell
you.
me about that.
You're so great. About what?
Tell me about having a sick wife.
I am sorry for the times that I haven't. Give me a second here. And I'm sure Damn it, Cameron.
It's okay. We don't even need to air this part. I just want to hear it. I want to be in this moment with you.
Well, let me just try to say it. I'm sorry for the times that I haven't seen you and I've just seen like maybe who I needed you to be or who you were when we got married, and I didn't see all that you were dealing with. You know, I just saw what I needed from you and maybe was judging you on that as opposed to seeing all that was going on within you. I'm so sorry for the times that you felt alone in this sickness and I haven't seen you. Yeah, I'm really sorry. And I'm sorry that I'm going to keep doing that, you know?
Thank you.
I really like you. Like, you are my favorite person. And I'm so grateful that you're the mother to my kids.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm sorry that I hide it. I don't come out and say I need you in this way. You're very good about when you need me, you verbalize it. Like you bring a wound to me and you're like, I need you in this. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry that I don't do that as much. I hide it and I'm like, I've got this. And I may like interiorly fight with it with God. But half the time I don't even know I'm doing it. And I'm not as good at saying like, here it is. I don't know how. I joke that like that part of my brain of like how my heart's doing, I don't know. I don't think about this is what's going on and I don't show it to you. Yeah. But it's like sometimes it just comes out.
Yeah.
And I love you and thank you for loving me and my sickness and all my flaws. And I'm sorry that I'm not, I don't know, healthy and strong. And the woman you married was super healthy. And well, here's the thing. I think I thought I was healthy. Like I've always thought of myself as a very healthy person. I was
throwing up in the bathroom a lot when we were engaged.
Yeah, so. But I thought I was healthy. On the days that I wasn't that sick, I'm like, I can conquer the world. I'm a captain of the wrestling team.
You are conquering the world. I think like any like conversions that come about through this podcast are due in large part to your offering up your suffering. So, as I said earlier, I will be serving you drinks in heaven. And thank you for being on my podcast. And how do you want to wrap up? What is your podcast called? I don't know.
It's called Among the Lilies. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having this conversation. I know that we both feel very naked in front of these lights right now and Neil and Thursday, which makes it even more awkward. Two single guys are like, but I'm glad. I don't want to do this. I don't like talking about it, but I know fruit will come of it.
Amen, it will.
I know that we will be able to articulate things that other people are going through and maybe don't know how to articulate it. And I think that we think just because this person, you know, has a podcast, they have it all together or up on that pedestal, like we're not. Like we are all broken and flawed. And I think that, and I'm trying to get better. And I think like I'm always asking, okay, is this sickness because I'm not, like, what am I not learning here, Lord? Like, I know I need to be hit upside the head by a 2x4 to learn something from him. Yeah. But I feel like maybe if the first time I got really sick and was hospitalized, if I had learned the lesson and just turned to Jesus every time instead of binge watching The Office or whatever other stupid show, Downton Abbey, or Call of the Midwives, whatever show that I turn to, because sometimes I just need a numb. And it's so much like I am drowning and the pain's too much and the offering it up. I feel like I've done it and I can't go any further. And it's like, I just need a numb. And so like turning to an episode or a show, I'm like, maybe if I had just kept turning to Jesus and not... So anyhow, I don't have the answers, but I think that I appreciate you putting the light on this and just sharing like, here we go. Here's like this whole thing of sickness. And I think a lot of it is like so many ways the healthcare system has failed us and pharmaceuticals have failed us. Like I was a kid that was always put on drugs. Like I had the Ritalin bush in my front yard because I was overdrugged and I didn't want to be on it. And it was only sheer willpower that I like learned to sit still in class.
You said Ritalin bush because you would spit them into the bush. I would spit
all the Ritalin in it. I didn't know there was like a market. I could have sold it and made some money. I didn't know that was a thing.
Would have been a really bad thing for you to do.
Yeah, so I had a bush. I just threw them all in the bush, my Ritalin bush. Yeah. But it was, I didn't like who I was. When I was on the drugs, I knew it was too much. I was overdrugged and I would sit in class like a zombie. And I wouldn't answer any questions, but I was well behaved. I didn't cause any problems for the teachers. But I remember going to recess and just sitting there and watching my friends play. And I just was drugged.
So sorry that happened.
I couldn't do anything. And so I was like, I don't want that. I tried to talk to my parents. I tried to talk to my counselor at the time, but I didn't like them and I didn't find them helpful. And so I was like, I'm going to figure it out myself. And so from a young age, I'm like, I'm going to take myself off of it. I like try to do half a pill.
How old were you?
I think I got put on Ritalin when I was in 1st or 2nd grade.
You were such a badass.
And I think by probably 3rd or 4th grade, I had a Ritalin bush.
7 years old, overcoming a drug habit. Good for you.
Yeah.
Without the help of your parents.
But my parents made me, my mom, like, I think my mom caught on and was like, I'm watching you take your medicine, take it. And so I'd like pretend like I'd swallow it and I'd hide it on the roof of my mouth. And then she'd ask me to open my mouth and I'd hide it back here and open my mouth, show that I took it and then go spit it out. And I remember like holding myself still and just being like, okay, you can do this. Don't move or they'll know. And like just kind of willpower through like, okay, you got to sit still enough so you don't get criticized. And I think I never fit in. Like I didn't fit in the box, right? I didn't. And then I also always felt like a failure because I was always sick or always hurt. Like, and then like, why is it always me? Because it always was me. But that's very much an EDS thing.
Yeah.
Like you're unaware of your body. So I like accidentally bump into things and dislocate stuff. And yeah, but I think it's...
Yeah, you've done that throughout our whole marriage.
Right? And now I know why. I'm like, oh, it's EDS. That's why I do that.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's my weird diseases.
Hey, as we wrap up, I want to give Hallow a shout out.
Sure.
And you've already mentioned them. I know you listen to them. Why don't you do the shout out for me? Why should people consider going to hallow.com/Matt Fradd? And when they sign up there, they'll get Hallow for free for 3 months. And so they can decide after that 3rd month whether they want to start.
I just love
paying.
it. I think it's the easiest way to take your prayer life to the next level. So as I said, I mainly listen. I mainly do my prayers in the morning. I just get really exhausted and I can't do a lot. So I loved Hallow before when I had like little kids and I could like play it and listen. And it's like I could breastfeed and do this and I'm not like fumbling with a book.
Yeah.
And then I just love the direction they're going in. There's so many different things. Like I love the healing that Dr. Bob and Sister Miriam are doing. Jonathan Rumi, I love him and his voice. I feel like he's my Jesus. Like for a while, I felt like I think different people have
Jim
like
Caviezel was your Jesus, or then there was the beach
he wasn't
Jesus.
my
Jesus?
Yeah, beach Jesus maybe was my Jesus for a little bit. But I think everyone like it feels drawn to one. Like John Paul II was like Jesus.
Oh, I see.
Like for me, for a long time, it was John Paul II. You are my Jesus. You are like the eyes and the hands and the feet. And when I think of like him loving me and holding me, especially in my sickness, like you holding me as I'm sick, like you're my Jesus. Well, now Jim Caviezel is also my Jesus.
Oh, you mean?
No.
Jonathan Rumi.
Jonathan Rumi. His voice. I don't know. Just the way, like when he talks, it challenges me to pray. And I love him and not Tim Staples. What's the other one's name? I always get them. Jeff Cavins. They would do something together. And I felt bad, but I always felt bad when it was Jeff Cavins. I was like, oh, I want him to be Jonathan. Because I don't know, something about his voice. And then like he does Jesus's voice and it's like straight to my heart.
Yeah.
And I love that they're doing these challenges. My daughter and I did, we're going to go to Le Zoo. And I probably said that wrong.
No, Lisieux. I don't know.
Lisieux.
Some French name.
Yeah,
We shouldn't apologize. They should apologize for having such crap language.
But they had this
I'd like to
beautiful...
apologize to everybody watching from France. Continue.
Yeah, no, they had this beautiful, I think it was a sister who did the voice and the reading, and it was just so good. And we went
Story of a Soul.
Yeah, Story of a Soul. And it was amazing and beautiful. And I love the challenges that they do. And there's some that I listen to, and I'm weird about voices. So certain people, I'm like, I can't listen to them.
I'm sorry.
This
isn't going to work for me.
This voice isn't working. And I don't know why. I judge people by their voice.
Everyone's like that. I mean, if you listen
Scott
to an
Hahn
audio
listening,
book, his
like reading
voice
to you
is-
as you go to bed, like that's nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
I mean, it'd be weird if he was like whispering in my pillow. I've done you before.
Please stop.
When you're out of town, I'll listen to
Really?
you. Yeah, Peter was sleeping in my room. This was when you were in Italy, and I had you playing Song of Songs. I think you do Song
That's
of Songs.
sweet.
And he's like, "Wait, is Dad home?" I'm like, "No, I'm just playing him on the phone." Thanks,
So
Hallow.
hallow.com/Matt Fradd. Sign up there, you get 3 months free. You can try it, and then after 3 months, if you want to quit, you don't get charged a cent. But yeah, both of us use it. I think it's really good. And there, so I have my Catholic lo-fi on there, so that's good.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Cameron, you're a beautiful woman. Thank you kindly for being on the show.
Thank you, honey.